And I wondered to myself, should I really do a stream at midnight? Then I'm like, there's fucking 24 time zones around this bitch, Like, it's not midnight for everybody. Fuck it. I'll stream whenever the fuck I want. Now's the time, god damn it. It's stream time. Why are you streaming so late? I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to work. Well, fuck you, huh? That's what I say. Lucky you still have a job, right? A lot of people are unemployed right now. Don't be insensitive to the unemployed. You fucking son of a bitch. You're so rude. You didn't even consider those people, did you? No, you didn't. But I did. 'Cause I'm a good person. I'm a bastion of moral virtue. Anyway, as you guys know, if you've joined me for a stream before, we do the STREAMLABS Super Chats at the end. Although this time we might do them once in the middle as well. I don't know. We'll see. Kind of just going to depend on how long it takes to get through all the shit I want to talk about. So I guess the first thing I should do is shill this book that I wrote. The Douchebag fucking Bible. That's right. You can hit people with it. It hurts pretty good, It's thick enough to hurt somebody. That's always a good sign for a book. I say if you've written a book and then you hit someone with it and it doesn't hurt them, you probably didn't write enough of a book, So I mean, this is for sale. It's down below. You can buy it, and you can buy regular edition for I think $25. You can buy special edition, signed and personalized by this guy, yours truly, for $50. And it's down below, and you can do that. Why wouldn't you? I don't know. Maybe you're illiterate. Maybe you just like to watch things. You don't like to read things. I don't know. That's up to you. That's your life. That's your decision. Who am I to fucking get involved in all that nonsense? I don't know. Just some guy, right? Right. Okay. So let's get into things. Once again, STREAMLABS, Super Chats, blah, blah, blah. It's all there. You can do it. You know how to fucking send a Super Chat, right? You know how to send a STREAMLAB. That's down below. First link in the description. And once again, they'll be right at the end, as I think I already said. But let's look at some bullshit. So I did a poll. I did a poll on Twitter. I mean, how many people responded to that fucking poll? Looks like about 5,000, a little under 5,000, about 4,806. Well, not about that, exactly that, right? So this is a poll for left-leaning liberals and leftists. So basically this is a poll for everybody who is right of the, is left of the Overton window in America, which is pretty far right. But I when I say left-leaning liberal, I mean someone who's, still ostensibly supports the basic structure of our system, but maybe just wants a more robust, social safety net and better protections for minorities and shit like that. That'd be kind of a left-leaning liberal. And then a leftist would be anything like, social democrat, democratic socialist, plain old socialist, communist, whatever the fuck you are. Somebody to the far left, I guess, but also moderate leftists. Anyway, I asked them, well, let's talk about, before we even get into the question, fuck that. Let's talk about the auspices for the question. Because one thing that the left has always had a problem with is the concept of unity, We're not really great at that whole unity thing. Just kind of like, atheists, right? They say that trying to, form like an atheist group is like trying to herd cats because they're all so kind of independent-minded and stubborn and, maybe not stubborn, but, they all have their own fucking ideas. And it's hard to necessarily form a coalition with that. And on the left, it's like, hey, is the system unfair? Is it stacked in favor of the rich? Is it stacked in favor of the owner class? We can all kind of agree on that one basic sort of principle, but then everything from there is just kind of a crapshoot of like, who the fuck knows what the fuck we think. And it's kind of the same for the atheist crowd. It's like, we don't believe in God. Well, what else do we have in common? Nothing. Not much. So it's kind of hard to form much of a unified sort of coalition based on that. But it seems like the guy who was able to do it in 2016 and again in 2020 was Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders is not some kind of far left radical guy. Calls himself a democratic socialist. But really he's a social democrat, or, maybe not even quite that. I don't know. Just kind of like believed in a robust social safety net, didn't really want to dismantle the institutions of capitalism. At least that wasn't reflected in his policies, but he was way to the left of the paradigm of the Democrats and Republicans in America. And, there was this possibility of him changing the very nature of the Democratic Party, because, of course, the Democratic Party kind of it becomes a reflection of whoever is leading it, as we saw when Bill Clinton took over the party in '92. Because prior to that, the Democratic Party was a very different institution. Bill Clinton kind of brought this whole sort of neoliberal corporatism, hey, we're Democrats, but we're not so down on capitalistic enterprise like, previous generations of Democrats might have been. The Democrats prior to Bill Clinton were way more of like the populist bent, but that stopped winning elections. And, Bill Clinton, largely because, though, I think the spoiler support from Ross Perot won that election in '92 and kind of changed what the Democratic Party was about, cemented a different path forward, and, probably ruined the party, honestly. There was the possibility of Bernie Sanders kind of not even really changing the party into something radically different, but just bringing it back to its roots, because the people of America deserve an alternative to neoliberal corporatist bullshit. And right now, it doesn't seem like we have one. So, with that being the context of the poll, for anyone who didn't understand and needed that sort of explained and refreshed to them, let's go back to the poll. So, poll for left-leaning liberals and leftists. What's the most viable strategy moving forward? Where do we go from here? Where do we go now? So I had a few options there. Take over the Democratic Party. We had 39.2% who favored that route. A third party, support like the Green Party or something like that. That's about 25%. Revolution, 29%. And then other, and describe it. That's about 6.8%. So not a very significant chunk there. It seems like most people are kind of mulling over one of those three options. And as you can see, the divides, there's not a clear favorite here. I mean, the winning option is take over the Democratic Party, but that's by no means some sort of giant, huge fucking swath. It's not a majority. It's 39.2%. So, third party, 25%, revolution, 29%, other, 6.8%. So pretty fucking sharply divided, almost into perfect thirds. Very, very close to just being a three-way division of confusion, which, is not a very viable, state of affairs if you're on the left, if you're looking to actually sort of implement some sort of leftist social change in America. Widespread disagreement about how to do that is obviously not super conducive to actually achieving the goals set out. So I thought that maybe I would take a look at some of these options in greater detail so that we can maybe, give them the consideration that they deserve. So let's start with the idea of abolishing all political parties, because that was probably the most common answer I heard from the other crowd. Now, obviously, that was the smallest voice, but nonetheless, I think it deserves some mention. So, abolish the parties. Just fucking get rid of them. We need to not have political parties. So, the argument for that is, basically, we have this stranglehold, this duopoly by the two establishment parties, the Republicans and Democrats. And, the only way that we can possibly fix this state of affairs is if we abolish those parties completely. let politicians kind of stand on their own with just on policy, you know? Like, let the American people, instead of voting, you know, red team or blue team, let them judge a candidate by their individual merits. Let the candidate stand up and say, here's my policy positions, here's where I stand on stuff. And, you know, then the people will, you know, instead of just reflexively, I'm on red team, so must vote red guy. I'm on blue team, so must vote blue guy. You know, instead of doing that, people would actually have to, oh, well, you know, I agree with them on this policy position, and I don't agree with them on this policy position, and blah, 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 blah. So that's the idea behind the whole abolish the parties thing. So here's some problems I see with that approach. The biggest problem with it is, why the fuck would the two parties ever relinquish the power that they have? Like, they're the lawmakers. They call the shots. They make the decisions. You know, obviously, they're greatly influenced by corporate money. So, you know, you can buy their decisions. You can buy them. They're for sale. But in terms of, like, abolishing the parties, like who in either of the parties is going to get on board with that agenda, right? Like, what Democrat or Republican is going to be like, hey, you know what I'm sick of? Democrats and Republicans. Let's lose that whole shtick, and you know, we'll all just be independents from now on. Like, it's kind of a hard sell to the ruling class. Like, hey, what if you guys gave up this system that has so enriched your lives at the expense of the rest of us? They're going to say, no, sorry, we're not down for that. You know, and by the way, the electorate has the ability, you know, ostensibly to do this themselves. If they wanted to, they could just be like, we're not voting for Democrats and Republicans anymore. We're going to vote for independents. Do they do that? No, they don't, right? I mean, how many independents are there in the Senate? Like 2? Maybe 3? I think it's 2. In Congress, I don't know. Handful, smattering here and there. Oh, look, it's an independent. Woo, crazy. But for the most part, people still vote red team, blue team. So, you know, you could convince the electorate to do it, but there's no fucking possible way that you're actually going to get the power structure itself to be like, all right, we're giving up the whole party label. Also, I'm not really sure how this advances the agenda of the left anyway, right? Because, I mean, you're still going to have, you know, politicians that are right-wing, politicians that are left-wing, and people are going to, you know, vote accordingly. And by the way, like, if you think there's not going to be teams in a system, even like, let's say you accomplish this. Let's say you abolish the parties. You get rid of them. No more Republicans and Democrats. Everyone's just an independent. Everyone's got to stand on their own 2 feet and just represent their own selves. You don't think there's going to be tons of, like, you know, signaling to the electorate what team they're on? Like, people, they're not going to give up these teams. You know, it's going to be like, I'm a traditional family values guy, you know? And people are going to know, oh, that's a Republican. You know? You know what I mean? Like, they're still going to be able to send out the signal, this is my team, right? Wink. We don't have teams anymore, but, you know, if we did, I'd be on this one. Like, that's all that would happen. I don't really see how it advances anything. So I'm going to just go ahead and say I don't see it. You know, maybe there's some argument for it that I'm just too fucking dense to comprehend or something. But frankly, I don't see it. Not seeing it. And of course, it wasn't a very popular option anyway, 6.8%. And not even all of the 6.8% were behind the whole abolishing the parties idea. And I don't really see, like, I see how maybe that could marginally improve the state of politics overall in America, but I don't really see how that advances the left at all. So, I'm on that one. That's my Don't like it. Not a huge fan. So let's move on to the next one. This is the third most popular option. A third party. It's time to vote green, guys. It's time to vote Libertarian if you want. I don't know. Whatever crazy shit you want to do. Maybe there'll be an independent candidate for president. Let's vote for the third party guy. So the argument here is that as long as this two-party duopoly controls the country, nothing can meaningfully change because they're just too entrenched in their power. And the only way you can break their stranglehold is for us to just be like, we are rejecting the two-party paradigm, and now we are embracing a third-party paradigm, right? And it sounds lovely, doesn't it? Like, because who likes the two-party system? I don't. I feel like America deserves a more robust array of choices, as I'm sure many of you feel the same. So in principle, I'm like, yeah, third party, fucking rock on. Yeah, great, awesome. Dig it. Dig the fuck out of it. So here's the problems I see with it, though. So problem number one, there's no third party right now that has the money, the organization, the grassroots sort of like support, or any of that stuff, or like you're just like the basic infrastructure of running a presidential campaign. Like none of the fucking third parties have it. Like the Green Party doesn't have it. Are you kidding me? Have you ever turned on the TV even once and seen an ad for the Green Party? Like, I remember 2016, I don't remember seeing a single fucking ad on TV or the internet or anywhere for fucking Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. Do you? I mean, I'm not saying they didn't exist out there somewhere, but I never saw them, never ran across my eyeballs. I never got a fucking call from like, hey, we're calling to help you see if you'll support Gary Johnson. No one knocked on my door. Hey, Jill Stein, never happened. Never fucking happened. Because they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the fucking money. They don't have the support. Now, there is an interesting thing where if one of these parties is able to get 5% of the vote, they do qualify for some federal funding, which might improve their chances in future elections. Kind of a weird standard, like, hey, yeah, if you're able to reach this benchmark, even though we've handicapped you incredibly, then we'll unhandicap you slightly, Kind of neat, whatever. But the main reason I think the third party thing just doesn't work is just looking at history. So like in 2016, right, we had the two worst fucking candidates that I've ever seen in my lifetime until this year, and when it got even worse somehow. Like, because now that I'm seeing like Joe Biden, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, Hillary. Okay, I thought you were as bad as it could get. I was wrong. At least you could get from one end of a sentence to the other end of the sentence. And then when I look back at the sentence, I'm like, hey, that's a sentence. And it makes sense. And I understand what it means. At least Hillary had that fucking going for her. Joe Biden can't even do that. Everything he does. It's like listening to Joe Biden talk is like when you get a song stuck in your head, but you don't really know the words to it. It's like, if I could turn back time, if I could find if I could do the thing. You know what I mean? It's just like everything is like a song he doesn't remember. It's like, the thing. As our great forefathers once said, give me liberty or give me let me start again. Like he's just, he sucks so fucking bad. He's the worst. But Hillary Clinton was pretty fucking awful. We all remember how awful Hillary was. Hillary is just a horrible, like, lizard demon from another dimension that's not even a fucking human being. Like, if you fucking touch, I bet you Hillary's cold to the touch, Have you ever seen Hillary going out and shaking voters' hands or something? I don't even remember seeing that. I think it's because if people felt her, they'd be like, oh, this isn't even a human. This is like a cold reptilian hand. What is going on here? And actually, I have Hillary here. This is Hillary's true form. So why don't you say hi to the people, Hillary? Say hello. Say hello, Hillary. Why did you not vote for me, America? I could have been a glorious leader. I promise the death camps would have only executed 7.3% of the overall population. Here you go. So anyway, what was I saying? So in 2016, we had two horrible candidates. Awful, wretched, terrible candidates. And it was reflected in polls, frankly. There was likability polls on Trump and Hillary Clinton, and they were the lowest in the history of likability polls. Those two were the lowest ranked in terms of likability politicians ever to make it to that level of like running for president against one another. Both of them had tremendously low likability ratings, just despised by the electorate. People were like, ugh, this is our fucking choice. Gross. So if there was any time in American history for people to just be like, you know what? We're going to fucking vote third party. It was 2016, y'all. That was the time and the place for the third party candidates to shine. It's like, whoa, we have historically low likability candidates that both fucking suck and are both completely undesirable in every way, shape, and form. And how did the third parties do that year? Well, let's take a look. How's that going, third parties? How you doing? Let's see. Trump, 62.9 million votes, 304 electoral college votes. Hillary Clinton, 65.8 million votes, 227 electoral college votes. Gary Johnson, 4.4 million votes, actually closer to 4.5. And, no electoral college votes. Jill Stein, 1.4 million, 0 electoral college votes. Evan McMullen, don't even know who the fuck that is. Got less than 1 million votes, no electoral college support. Like what? Like that's the best they could do with the two most unlikable candidates in history. That's the best they could do. Gary Johnson got 3.3% of the popular vote. Jill Stein got 1.1% of the popular vote. Neither of them got a single electoral college delegate. And, the problem here is the winner-take-all nature of our primaries all but ensures that the rise of a third party is pretty much fucking impossible. It's not completely impossible, but it's functionally goddamn impossible. So check it out. 1992, okay? 1990 fucking 2. We mentioned Ross Perot a little earlier in the stream. Let me get a drink of water. Ross fucking Perot ran as an independent, managed to get 18.9% of the vote. Pretty significant chunk of the vote, right? 18.9%. That's like a fifth of the fucking vote. Holy shit. That guy's a real competitor. You know how many electoral college fucking votes he got? None. Let me repeat that. None. Not one. You get a fifth of the vote nationally. You don't get one single solitary goddamn electoral college vote, because even though he did well across the board, he could not win in even one fucking state. And most of the states, winner take all, because the electoral college fucking sucks once again, and it pretty much prevents the even possibility of a third party rising to power. You cannot break the stranglehold of these two parties. Well, you can. It's happened before. There have been other major political parties. But you know what? Even if a third party rises, one of the other parties would fall. Like the nature of our system is such that only two parties can exist sustainably. A third option is just not a fucking real choice. It's not a real option. Our system is set up in such a way that a two-party system is what we've got. So, you might be wondering, what's the last time a third-party candidate actually did get some electoral college votes? Well, that would be George Wallace, 1968. George Wallace, the segregationist, won Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, and Georgia. He only won about 13.5% of the popular vote, but he was able to win majority votes in those states, and he did manage to win 46 electoral college votes. So let's recap. Let's just go over these points again, because I think they're fucking important, and I really want to make sure everyone understands what the fuck I'm saying to you here. What I'm saying to you is a third party in 2016, the year of the most unlikable candidates ever, not just according to me, but according to polling, they couldn't make a dent. Couldn't make the slightest little dent in the two-party duopoly. The two times in relatively recent history, and I'm talking relatively recent because we're talking 1992 and 1968. Oh, by the way, since Ross Perot won in 1992, not a single candidate, his third-party candidate's gone over 5%. He was the last one to go over 5%. The two times in relatively, very relatively recent history, 1992 and 1968, who have done anything as a third party, they were both right-wingers. Ross Perot, right-winger. George Wallace, super right-winger. Segregationist, for fuck's sake. Basically ran on the idea of states' rights. You know, and when he's states' rights at the time was basically just code for the right of states to discriminate against black people specifically. Because, you know, the South, you know, still had a big chip on its shoulder from losing the Civil War. And they're like, well, we still want to somehow oppress black people. And, you know, George Wallace is like, you should have the right to do that. And that's why they voted for him. So not only is it really hard for a third party to even make a dent, but the times that they have in recent history have all been on the right. Right-wing candidates have done it. Basically, look at what's the legacy of these candidates. So the legacy of Ross Perot is that he basically was a spoiler for Bush. Because Bush, if Ross Perot hadn't run, Bush might have won re-election, and Clinton might not have ever happened. Now, we could sit here all day and speculate about how history would have unfolded differently if that had been the case. But that's about the biggest dent that Ross Perot made in things. Wallace, you know, probably most notable for being part of, like, the tumultuous sort of shift in southern states. Because, of course, you know, prior to, like, 1960 or so, the southern states used to be strongly Democratic fucking support there. It was all blue. The South was, like, solidly blue. And, you know, but when the Democratic Party started to kind of shift away from the states' rights arguments that, you know, were super popular in those southern states, you know, some third parties came up. Strom Thurmond ran as a third-party candidate on the states' rights issue. Barry Goldwater ran as a Republican, but strongly on the states' rights issue, and basically only won the South. His candidacy didn't really resonate anywhere else but the South. Neither did Strom Thurmond's, and neither did George Wallace's. So you had these three guys who all ran on, like, states' rights stuff. Two ran as third-party candidates. One ran as the Republican Party candidate. And they ran on the whole strong states' rights kind of issues, like the South should be free to segregate and all this other stuff. And they pretty much all only won southern states, which made it kind of seem like, oh, this isn't a viable strategy. But then the Republican Party kind of learned how to, like, you know, appeal to, you know, the southern states, kind of pay lip service to the states' rights argument, but not actually embrace that sort of thing. It was called the Southern Strategy. You can look it up. We did a whole deep fat fried episode on it if you want. It's neither here nor there for this argument. The whole point of this is the third party thing. I'm pretty goddamn skeptical of it because historically it just hasn't really worked. Like, there's no historical precedent for the third parties working. Well, there's not no historical precedent. It's happened before, you know, very long time ago. But when it's happened in the past, it's been a third party rose up and took the place of one of the existent parties and just changed it to a new left, you know, not left-right paradigm necessarily, but, you know, a new two-party paradigm. So let's look at the second most popular option in the poll, revolution. Oh, yeah, we need a revolution. That's what's called for here. Revolution. Viva la revolution. So the argument here is the system is fundamentally broken. The only solution is to dismantle it and to replace it. You know, like you can't, it's just the whole system is just a fucking corrupt sewer. It's garbage. It's never going to be fixed. There's no way to fix it. The best thing we can possibly do is scrap it and press the fucking reset button. Okay? That's what we got. Obviously, you can't do this through you can't dismantle the system and create a new system through the electoral means. You know, the system that we have would have to not be broken in order for us to do that kind of change through the system. And if the system wasn't broken, there'd be no point in doing this in the first place. So you can't do it within the context of the system. You have to destroy the system and then create something better. That's the revolution argument. So here's the problems I see with that. So the first problem should be evident to everybody. The government of this country is super goddamn powerful. I don't know if you noticed, but they're quite powerful. They have police, they have soldiers, they have spy networks, they have advanced, surveillance technology capable of knowing everything you're doing every minute of every fucking day. They're pretty goddamn powerful. They have a lot of money, they have a lot of resources, and there's not much that they can't do. So how the fuck do we take that on exactly? Like in a direct sort of confrontation. It's pretty fucking, I guess I won't say it's impossible, but it's impossible. Right? How? This is not like the Empire where it's like, oh shit, they fucking left a small thermal exhaust port that if we shoot the laser in it just right, kaboom, the whole thing just goes up in a ball of fucking fire. They didn't do that. So what are we talking about here? That's just problem number one. And that's pretty much like, I feel like I could just stop there. But if you need more, I got them. So the majority of the population of the country, not going to be super on board with a revolution, right? Because things might not be going great, but I think people, as long as people can go to McDonald's and be like, hey, I'll take a fucking, double quarter pounder with cheese and a large Coke. As long as they got that, as long as they got, hey, I'm going to watch this movie on Netflix. Hey, I'm going to play this fucking video game. Hey, I'm not waiting in a fucking bread line, right? As long as they have access to a basic standard of living, they're kind of like, why am I wanting to rock this boat again? Why am I supporting a fucking revolution against the government? Let's face it, as bad as things are, they're just not bad enough for most of the people in this country to get behind a fucking revolution. Which is why you have this whole group of people, the accelerationists, who are like, we got to make things worse. We got to make things worse so that the fucking people crave revolution. How much worse do they have to get? And how long do they have to be worse? Because it seems to me like our goal should be improvement, not let's make everything horrible so that, I think I posted a meme on my my Instagram where, it had Rick from Rick and Morty, and it said accelerationists on him, and, maybe I could find it. I don't know. And he's got the portal, and he's like, yeah, come on. The portal just has fascism written on it. And he's like, yeah, come on in. 20-minute adventure, in and out. And that's the whole accelerationist argument. Oh yeah, well, once things are so horrible and bleak and awful that no one can tolerate it, then comes the revolution. And then we can make things better. It has to get way worse before it can get better. Well, I don't know. doesn't sound too fucking appealing to me. What if it just gets way worse and stays way worse? Seems like an awful big gamble. You know, I'm going to burn down my house and then I'll buy a new house that's nicer. You know, it seems like there's some things that could go wrong with this plan, guys. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure about that one. So, number three problem with the whole revolution argument. If a popular uprising sprung up, it would be the perfect fucking impetus for the government to introduce, like, Patriot Act 2, The Empire Strikes Back. Like, it could just be an invitation for the government to become 100% fascistic in every way. Like, oh, well, you know, we got to keep America safe from these fucking crazy revolutionaries, so that's why we got to have fascism, y'all. There's too much unrest. There's too much civil disobedience. Freedom was a nice little experiment while it lasted, but it's time for us to just fucking nix it completely and embrace, you know, total global fascism. I'm not really super keen on the idea of fascism. I don't know what it is. Doesn't appeal to me. So, number 4 problem, even if a revolution succeeded, which, I mean, like, as I've just explained, kind of a fucking joke, guys. Kind of a joke. Sorry. But let's say I'm wrong. Let's say it's successful. Let's say it happens. There's no guarantee that whoever's left standing at the end of the great, Second American Revolution, there's no guarantee that person's going to fucking do what's right or that group of people's going to do what's right by us. You know, like, history is rife with examples of revolutionaries being like, freedom for the people, no longer will we be oppressed. And then they get in power and it's like, well, it's time to oppress the people because power's pretty cool. Look at Castro in Cuba, right? You know, I don't believe in the idea of Cuba as the fucking boogeyman, you know, like it's been portrayed by, you know, America for so long. But it's not a great country. It's authoritarian. It's horrible. Maybe just not as horrible as America would like you to believe. But still sucks. Castro fucking talked all kinds of shit about freedom and, you know, we're going to fucking put the power in the hands of the people. He didn't do that. He didn't fucking do that at all. Well, I mean, to be fair, to some limited extent, he did. He gave the people, you know, representatives and stuff that they could complain to, but he made sure at the very tippy top of power was him. You know, because it turns out power is very alluring, and once you have it, it's kind of hard to be like, here, you take it. If the Cuba example rubs you the wrong way for some reason, just think about America. Yeah, think about America, the first American Revolution. We all think of it today as like this rousing big success, don't we? Oh man, we were under the tyranny, the boot heel of England, but then the founding fathers in all their glory done set us free. So I have an excerpt I'd like to read here from a book called A Renegade History of the United States by historian Thaddeus Russell. I want to read to you about some stuff about colonial America. Not necessarily before the American Revolution, but during the American Revolution. So during the War of Independence, deference to authority was shattered. A new urban culture offered previously forbidden pleasures, and sexuality was loosened from its puritanical restraints. Non-marital sex, including adultery and relations between whites and blacks, was rampant and unpunished. Divorces were frequent and easily obtained. Prostitutes plied their trade free of legal or moral prescriptions. Black slaves, Irish indentured servants, Native Americans, and free whites of all classes danced together in the streets. Pirates who frequented the port cities brought with them a way of life that embraced wild dances, night-long parties, racial integration, and homosexuality. European visitors frequently commented on the astonishing libertinism of early American cities. Renegades held the upper hand in Philadelphia, Boston, New York, and Charleston. and made them into the first centers of the American pleasure culture. Rarely have Americans had more fun, and never have American leaders been less pleased by it. Because the Founding Fathers didn't look at all that freedom and say, this is great. This is awesome. This is just what we want. They looked at it like, this is disgusting. This is unorderly. Because the Founding Fathers were not a bunch of freedom lovers, okay? They were a bunch of rich dudes who were tired of kissing the boots of fucking, the king, and they wanted that power for themselves. The American Revolution was just a power grab for the American elite because they were tired of fucking kissing the ass of the British elite. They're like, man, we're over here on a whole new continent. We run this shit. Why are we still fucking paying lip service to that fucking douchebag across the ocean? We should run this bitch. And that's all it was about. Freedom had nothing to fucking do with it. Nothing. And in fact, they curtailed as many freedoms as they could, as quickly as they possibly could, because they considered the sort of freedoms that Americans were indulging in unruly and uncivilized and uncouth. So fuck the American Revolution and fuck the Founding Fathers and fuck the mythologizing of those fucking prudish cocksuckers. All right. The point of that was not to shit on the Founding Fathers, though. The point of that was to say revolutions, they're not always what they're sold as. And in fact, they're not usually what they're sold as. Usually it's just one group of people trying to seize power by exploiting the hunger for change in the vox populi. Another reason that I don't like this whole revolution idea is because a revolutionary left is going to lead to the rise of a revolutionary right. Right? Right. And guess what? The revolutionary right, they're going to have all the guns, y'all. They're going to have all the guns because you know what? They're the ones who love guns. They're the ones who collect guns. They're the ones who make sure they have as many fucking guns as possible. Right? Right. Now, there's some fucking gun-loving, lefties out there. There's even a Socialist Rifle Association, which I would join, but I don't own a rifle. I don't own any gun. I've never even shot a gun. I don't know shit about guns. I just don't. But there's some lefties who have guns, and I talked about maybe the left should get with the gun thing. But especially if we're gonna be talking about some revolution shit, we should definitely get on the gun thing because you need guns for a revolution. Now, maybe some of these people were talking in this comment about like a peaceful revolution, which, okay, so a peaceful revolution, I could just dismiss that like, that'll just be laughed off. Like, no one cares about no peaceful fucking revolution. What are you gonna do? We're all gonna link hands and fucking, it's like, no one cares about that. Hippies tried that in the 60s, man. We're gonna fucking create the world's biggest hacky sack to fucking raise awareness for the fucking, it's like, it just doesn't work, guys. Peaceful revolution doesn't work. Violent revolution doesn't work. It's just not, the revolution thing, I'm sorry, but I'm uber skeptical of it. Maybe someone out there can convince me otherwise. Maybe someone's got some compelling counter arguments they can throw my way and be like, actually, TJ, but it ain't happened yet, and I ain't holding my fucking breath. So now let's go to the top option, the most popular option in the poll, which is taking over the Democratic Party. So the argument for taking over the Democratic Party is the two-party system cannot be easily broken, as we've already seen when we talked about the third-party thing. And so the reasonable course of action for the left is to retake the Democratic Party from the corporatist, neoliberal, pseudo-fucking democratic frauds who have taken over the party who took over the party back in 92, really. And now, not to say it was all just in one fell swoop. They did it in 92. But, that was when they really cemented their power, and their grip has only tightened since then, right? So let's talk about the problems I see with this. So the first problem is that entrenched powers are obviously pretty reluctant to let go of power. You know, the people at the top of the fucking pyramid are never really going to be the ones who are like, maybe this pyramid's fucked up. Why? Because they're at the top. You know, if you're at the top of the pyramid, everything's lovely, right? You got all the power, you got all the money, you got all the influence. You know, laws that apply to the peasant class just don't really apply to you. You can do whatever you want. You know, you could fucking, it's just like, it's fucking wonderful for you. So why would they want to change it? They're going to fight tooth and nail against anyone who's saying like, let's change this. And we saw them do that. We'll talk about that in a second though. So the second problem with this kind of system is that, the system has a habit of corrupting people who try to change it from within. There's a great lyric from the Leonard Cohen song, First We Take Manhattan, Then We Take Berlin. It's actually the opening line of the song, I believe, where he's like, they sentenced me to 20 years of boredom for trying to change the system from within. And it's true. A lot of people... A lot of starry-eyed, idealistic kind of people have been like, you know what, I'm going to change things. And then they get there, and at first their idealism seems like it's intact, but then they start making little tiny concessions to the establishment. Hey, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And before you know it, it's like Animal Farm, the end of Animal Farm, where the animals are looking from the pigs to the humans, from the humans to the pigs, and they can no longer tell the fucking goddamn difference. You know, it gets to that point where, we get this starry-eyed idealist. Oh, we've already seen it a little bit with like some of the squad, right? We've seen AOC, at first she was like, I'm going to support primary challengers for all these entrenched Democrats. And then it's like, maybe I'm not going to do that. At first she's like, I'm not, fuck Pelosi. I'm antagonistic towards Pelosi. And now it's like, I like Pelosi. She's cool. She's a nice lady. She's really good. She's really powerful. Maybe she'll share some of her power with me. It's very seductive. Power corrupts. It's not just a cliche. It's a real fucking thing. So there's that problem. The other problem, one of the other problems is we tried this shit twice, last two elections, right? Ran Bernie Sanders in 2016, Wow, he's a real breath of fresh air from your typical Democrat. Maybe we should support him. Didn't really work out, did it? Ran him again in 2020. Didn't work out again. So 2016, they rigged the primaries with super delegates. Before states had even voted, the majority of super delegates declared for Hillary Clinton. They're just like, yeah, we back Hillary. Before a single ballot had been cast by anyone voting in any single primary state, almost all of the super delegates had been like, we are for Clinton. They fed Hillary Clinton debate questions in advance so that she could formulate her answers and sound as good as possible. Didn't really work for her. Her answers still fucking sucked, but whatever. It's Hillary Clinton. They completely rigged the New York primary. Basically, before the New York, a scant 25 days or so before the New York primary, they're like, oh, by the way, you got to be a registered Democrat to vote in the New York primary. Bye. Right? Because they're like, oh, shit, Bernie Sanders might win the New York primary. That would be bad for Hillary. So they basically disenfranchised 3 or 4 million voters. They're like, no. Only Democrats can vote. And they gave people basically no advance notice to switch their party affiliation to Democrat so they could vote for Bernie Sanders. So they disenfranchised a shit ton of voters using that strategy. And then, of course, there were just all the states where Bernie Sanders would win the popular vote, but Hillary Clinton would win the majority of the pledged delegates, which kind of made it laughable later when she was like, I won the popular vote against Donald Trump. I beat him by the popular vote. It's like, oh, you care about the popular vote now. How interesting. How very interesting that is. So in 2020, it was much the same story. They got rid of the super delegate thing. Well, they made it to where super delegates couldn't vote until the second round of voting. So it gave a little bit more power to the people. And this, by the way, is basically a concession that Bernie Sanders got the DNC to make so that, you know, it was like, I'll only support Hillary if she does such and such concessions. And one of the concessions was the DNC has to get rid of this bullshit superdelegate thing, at least in the first round. Well, he tried to get rid of him entirely, but ultimately he at least got the concession of, we're not going to have the superdelegates in the first round of voting. So they didn't, that wasn't as much of an issue. They still did the pledge delegate nonsense where they tried to frame it like Pete Buttigieg won Iowa. He lost the popular vote in Iowa, but he still won the pledge delegates by like 2 or 3. So they still continued that bullshit rigging of the process. And, you know, when it looked like Bernie Sanders was going to win the whole shebang, the establishment got scared. They're like, fuck this. So Barack Obama himself, the presumptive leader of the entire Democratic Party, until, you know, someone wins, you know, and until there's another Democratic president, Barack Obama. I was doing a little Joe Biden there. Sorry. Until there's another president, a Democratic president, whether it be Joe Biden or whoever it is, Barack Obama is pretty much the head honcho of the Democratic Party because he's their most recent president, and he's still very popular with Democratic voters to this day. And Barack Obama himself called Amy Klobuchar, called Pete Buttigieg, called, Beto O'Rourke, whoever else. He convinced Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg to drop out, to consolidate the center lane, to endorse Biden. And that, of course, gave Joe Biden the push he needed to win on Super Tuesday. So it was still a bunch of bullshit. They didn't technically rig the process in that action, but it was still a pretty dirty trick. So states like Texas, though, they did rig. They mysteriously lost a bunch of fucking votes in Hispanic districts. Hispanics were going hugely for Bernie Sanders in 2020. He had huge support among Hispanics, and whoops, we just happened to lose a bunch of Hispanic votes from Hispanic districts. Oopsie daisy, where'd they go? We don't know. we lost them. And then, even though Bernie Sanders was favored to win Texas, Joe Biden eked out a victory in Texas, and we don't know what happened to those fucking votes, and no one even asked questions later. So a lot of fuckery went on in 2016 and 2020. So it's like, can we really change the Democratic Party from within when you're competing against that, when you're competing against the powers that be desperate to keep control, when you have, so many people who enter the Democratic Party and then slowly sell out the values that they initially had when they won election? Can you really beat them when they're willing to rig the process so that their candidates win and the populist leftist candidates lose? Is it really worth trying? Well, yeah, I think it's the best option. I really do. So why do I favor that fucking strategy? I'll tell you why. And by the way, if anyone, I want to remind everyone once again, Streamlabs and Super Chats are open, and I'm going to be reading some momentarily. I'm going to be reading them all momentarily. So why do I favor that strategy? Why do I favor the strategy of taking over the Democratic Party? So it's not easy at all. But as far as the options that I laid out, I think it's the easiest. It's easier than the almost insurmountable task of getting a third party to victory. It's easier than the, frankly, I'm going to say impossible task of a successful leftist revolution in America. Like, I'm sorry, you're living in a fantasy land. You're living in a fucking fantasy, if you believe that. I mean, like, it's just not going to happen. The takeover of the Democratic Party is the most plausible fucking of these tasks. I mean, I know it's difficult. I know it's like super fucking hard. I know that these people do not want to relinquish power at all. But like, I feel like it's the easiest of the hard choices, right? The reason I think that is because we've seen the parties get taken over before. You know, the Tea Party took over the Republican Party in 2008, whereabouts. Not exactly in 2008, but they started to do a takeover in 2008. They got rid of a bunch of entrenched Republicans. A shit ton of Republican politicians who had been there for years got primaried out because they weren't pure enough for the Republican electorate. And it changed the nature of the Republican Party, and it eventually led to the rise of Donald Trump. So there's that. The Democratic Party it underwent a drastic change in 1992 under Clinton. Now, I think it was a change for the worst, but it showed that you can change the nature of one of these parties. Because what the parties want more than anything is fucking victory. They want to win. They want to win because wins equal power, and power equals their lives being cozy and awesome, right? So, obviously, the big issue that they have with the populist left is not that populist leftism can't win, because it totally can. The problem they have with it is they don't want to stop taking that corporate money. They like that corporate money because there's a lot of it, and it's really appealing. Now, Bernie Sanders showed that you can raise money through populist grassroots means, and you can raise a lot of it. But, you're not going to raise billions doing that. You're just not. Because most people who are just, working a job at fucking Starbucks or, the Best Buy or whatever the fuck are not going to be able to, give you these giant dollar donations. So it's way more appealing to just have like some billionaire come to you and be like, hey, here's, $100,000 for your reelection campaign, and here's the agenda you support now. And you're like, yeah, cool, looks good. Looks great. But, look, we've seen that we've seen the possibility that you can primary these fuckers. Because AOC did it. AOC beat an entrenched congressman who had been there for fucking years and years, like decades. And, she won with a populist leftist agenda. Now, we can talk about the pros and cons of AOC and, maybe you like her, maybe you hate her. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about her. It really is irrelevant how you feel about her. What's important is that she did it. And look, they're already working on some crafty ass bullshit to get rid of AOC, Like, they're trying to do to her the same thing they did to Dennis Kucinich back in 2012, which is they're going to redraw the districts in such a way where she can't win. They'll make her district defunct to get rid of her. Like they did it to Dennis Kucinich, who was another progressive Democrat who was in the, he served for years. And they just, oh no, we redrew the district. You're no longer a congressman, So they can easily do that. They might do it to her. The main reason they might not do it to her is because, Dennis Kucinich didn't have a huge fan following. He was just like, he was a leftist voice in the Democratic Party, but he didn't really have like some huge fan base of support the way AOC does. So it's a little bit less likely they'll do it to her, but, it's still possible. And if she rocks the boat too much, that threat always kind of looms over her. So that's just more Democratic Party fuckery right there. So the more you vote them out, the entrenched Democratic, neoliberal, centrist, corporatist pieces of shit, the more you vote them out and vote progressives in, though, the less power they have. And we saw that once again with the Tea Party movement in the 2000s, from 2008 to whenever. They were able to organize a grassroots right-wing movement that got rid of a lot of these entrenched Republicans that just weren't meeting the purity test of the voters. Like, you're too much of a corporatist, you're too much of a hack, you're too full of shit. We want like radical, fucking super xenophobic kind of Republicans in office because we're all about immigration and we're all about you cutting our taxes as much as possible. So that's what the Tea Party did. They saw that their Republican representatives weren't representing them, and they said, fuck them then. We're going to primary them, and we're going to put in Republicans that we like. And they did it. Democrats don't seem to have the balls to do the same thing. So what you got to do is you got to convince Democratic voters that the party needs to change, which I understand is pretty fucking hard to do because it seems like a lot of Democratic voters just want the status quo. Oh, the status quo. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it nice? I mean, the whole reason Joe Biden's in there is because it's like, we're going to return to what we had under Obama. And no one points out that, like, well, what we had under Obama eventually led to the rise of Trump. So was it really all that great? They still think it was, I guess. Another thing is, if you don't even necessarily have to replace all these fuckers. You don't need to replace every single solitary, neoliberal, centrist, corporatist, bullshit Democrat with a progressive in order to change the way the party works. Because a lot of these people, these career politicians, they're parasitical in nature. And if they see that there's a sea change, if they see the wind is blowing in another direction, they're going to embrace it. They're going to embrace it, just for the sake of their own survival. They're going to be totally insincere in their beliefs. They're probably going to do some corrupt shit behind the scenes, but they'll at least support some progressive agenda stuff simply because they don't want to get voted out of office. If you primary enough of them, those that are left are going to be kind of afraid of getting primaried. And they're going to say to themselves, maybe I should fucking at least talk the progressive talk. And we kind of saw that even in the early stages of the recent Democratic primary, where towards the beginning, a lot of them were sounding kind of like Bernie Sanders. Now, as the race went on, they started differentiating themselves from Bernie Sanders more and more. Like Pete Buttigieg at one point was like, I'm all in on Medicare for all. Kamala Harris, the first debate you saw her in, was like, I'm a progressive firebrand, and I'm actually fucking just as progressive as Bernie Sanders. And that quickly went away. Because after she did well in that debate, a bunch of corporate donors jumped on and were like, ooh, we like the energy. Not so much the leftist rhetoric. Tone that down. But of course, that was what made her appealing. And after that, her appeal fucking just floundered, and she tried to win on the issue of, let's get Donald Trump banned from Twitter. And people are like, huh? So she went away. The main point I want to make, though, is that these fuckers who rig these elections, they can only rig them if they're close, guys. They can only rig these elections if they're fucking close. So I don't know why, when we've made so much progress with these Bernie Sanders campaigns in 2016 and 2020, I don't know why we would turn our backs on that progress and be like, well, we tried it twice, didn't work, fuck it. Sure, we built a fucking grassroots movement that proved it could be competitive in a national election. And sure, we were fucking like this far away from getting the nomination of the party 2 times in a row. But we just trying a third time. It's just like, tried it twice, didn't work, fuck it. Like, what kind of fucking argument is that? It's fucking stupid. Like if you fucking try to do something twice and you almost do it, there's a pretty good argument for trying it again and again and again until you fucking do. Like, persistence pays off. Eventually. Some people say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. But I say the definition of insanity is trying something once, and when it doesn't work, never doing it again. That's my definition of insanity. So I want to close off these remarks by just saying that there's been a lot of debate about Biden lately, on the left. I'm not talking about the mainstream Democratic voter who obviously is just like, yeah, we like Biden. We don't really like him, but, we hate Trump enough that we're going to vote for him. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about on the left, there's been some debate about Biden. There have been people who make the argument like, we got to support Biden, got to suck it up and vote Biden, lesser of two evils, harm reduction, blah, 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 blah. And there's been the people who are like, fuck that noise, fuck the system. I'm not playing this fucking game anymore. This is bullshit. I don't fucking like Biden. I don't fucking support Biden. I ain't fucking supporting that piece of shit. Fuck him. And fuck anybody who supports him, whatever. So there's been a lot of that debate going on lately. But to me, the Biden debate, it's, whatever. It's like we can work with either fucking result, all right? Like, Biden wins, we have a path forward. We can fucking criticize Biden. And, I think, I've seen Vosh make the argument, for instance, that, Biden is the easier guy for the left to bully, Like, no matter who wins, be it Trump or Biden, the left is going to have an enemy in the White House. So why not choose the weaker enemy, right? Biden will be the weaker enemy. We have more of a chance of pushing him around. Let's do Biden. But, I equally see the argument that if we get Trump again, then the progressives have another shot at the presidency in 4 years. And maybe the Democratic establishment will start to say, God damn, maybe the only way we can actually fucking win is if we start listening to these people. Now, it's far-fetched, I know, because they seem determined to never learn their lesson. But maybe another 4 years of Trump is just what they need. I don't know. Both arguments make perfect sense to me. But I feel like the Biden or Trump or third party, I feel like this argument doesn't matter nearly as much as figuring out this shit. Figuring out what the fuck our plan is. Like, how do we move this country to the left? How do we get Medicare for all? How do we get a fucking better safety net for America's workers and the people of this country? How do we fucking, ensure that everyone has food, clothing, shelter? How do we ensure that people's, liberties are not being trampled upon? How do we end this fucking bullshit drug war? How do we end this the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex? How do we get rid of all that bullshit that has basically turned our society into a festering ball of shit? How do we clear out those fucking cobwebs and move finally into the 21st fucking century? How do we do it? It can't be a three-way split answer, guys. We got to fucking get on board with something. And to me, what makes the most sense is we got to take over the fucking Democratic Party. Got to do it. That's just where the power is. And that's where I'm at. Now, I'm going to do this is not the end of the stream. I have more. I want to talk about. But because this is a little bit longer than the usual stream I do, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to do a mid-stream super chat fest right now and right here. And, we'll proceed from there. So let's read some super chats. Let's read some Streamlabs. Let's do that. So let's get right down to it. Remember, by the way, when we come back, let me just give you a little preview so that I know some people like to tune out during the Streamlabs and Super Chat stuff. So let me just give you a little preview of what's coming. I'm going to be doing a really self-indulgent segment where I talk about the people who have been the biggest influence on me. Because I don't know. It's fascinating to me. I don't know if it'd be fascinating to you, but I deserve a little self-indulgence here and there. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna look at I'm gonna look at the politics of the Libertarian Party a little bit. I think there's some interesting things going on with the Libertarian Party right now, specifically with Vermin Supreme, who actually has a real shot at winning the nomination of the Libertarian Party. Vermin Supreme might actually be a real presidential candidate on the fucking ballot that you can vote for. Now, it's not super likely, but it's more likely than you'd fucking think. And it seems like, Vermin Supreme, we'll talk about it. But for now, let's read some super chats and some Streamlabs, because that's what we're here to do right at the moment, right? Yeah. So let's start with the donations from Streamlabs. All right. Michael Nowak gave $1 and asked, DFF talent show? So, yeah, the DFF talent show was supposed to be our 5,000 patron goal. We passed 5,000 quite a while ago. I was in the process of putting the talent show together, and COVID-19 happened. So now we probably should have done it before that, because it was a number of months that we kind of let it go before that happened. But literally, we were on the cusp of finally rolling it out, and COVID-19 happened, and it kind of created some complications. And right now, honestly, we're having a lot of trouble figuring out how to do our show without lag and without poor audio and all this other stuff, because we're used to doing it together in one room, and all of a sudden we're being expected to do it remotely. And we're still trying to have the visual accompaniment and all this other stuff. So we really fucking been jumping from software to software, from solution to solution, and finding that each one presents its own unique set of problems. So right now, shit's just fucked up. And I think we can all understand that, you know, what's going on with this COVID-19 shit is not super great. I'm going to take this fucking hat off because it's starting to make me hot. What? To steal it? Oh. Apparently you guys were telling my wife to steal my beanie, so here she goes. She's got it. She didn't steal it. I gave it to her freely. I don't know if that's as satisfying. It's probably not. So Anima, it's probably pronounced Enema, actually, because it's the Tool album spelling. 72826 says, BRB getting brownies. Yum. Kirk Coble gave $5 and says, is it more obnoxious when major companies or giant celebrities tell us we're all in this together and everything's going to be okay? I think it's more obnoxious when giant companies do it, you know? Because at least a celebrity, like, that's a person, that's a human being with, like, ostensibly a perspective. Now, granted, you don't really want to hear that everything's going to be okay and that social distancing ain't so bad from someone who gets to live in a fucking mansion, you know? Kind of rubs people the wrong way for obvious reasons. Because, you know, their social isolation and their palatial fucking estate is not the same as your social isolation in your fucking, you know, 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever square foot house or apartment, you know? It's just not the same fucking thing. But I think it's even more obnoxious when giant companies do it because there's no sincerity to it whatsoever. It's just, you know, our marketing research has shown that, you know, so fuck that. It's totally insincere. At least the celebrities, I can believe that maybe they're being fucking sincere, right? You know, even if they're, you know, out of touch. You know, maybe all I want from a celebrity during this shit is just to kind of shut up and go away, you know? Like, if you're going to make a movie or something or record an album, great, do that. We definitely need entertainment in this time. So I'm all for you doing that, but don't fucking give me some inspirational, like, we're all in this together bullshit, because no one wants to hear it from you. Get up. Come on, get down with it. It's just he wrote the fucking lyrics. Get down with the sickness. These are old? Oh, you're right. You know what? These are old. I'm sorry. I've been reading the wrong ones. I'm fucking retarded. All right. So the actual first one is from Fart Shitter for 666. He says, what's the worst band ever? Probably Nickelback. I mean, I know that's cliche. Maybe Puddle of Mud's worse. I don't know. I think Nickelback, though. Evan W68 gave 666. Says, did you see Steve Shives make some shitty meme about you on Facebook? It was pretty cringe. What? I gotta see this. Let me see if I can find this shit. Steve Shives Facebook. Oh, yeah, I want to see it. Shitty meme on Facebook. Shitty meme on Facebook. Shitty meme on Facebook. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, you should have sent it. You should have given me a link. All right, how far back am I? I'm back to May 13th. Man, this motherfucker posts on Facebook a lot. Okay, let's see. Facebook. What the fuck? I don't see no meme about me. You lied, boy. You lie. All right, if I go back to the beginning of May and there's still nothing, then I'm gonna fucking give up this fool's quest. Cringy memes, cringy memes, cringy memes, dee-dee-dee-deem. Okay, well, whatever. I can't find it. I went all through May. I didn't see it, so I'm going to assume you're a fucking liar, sir. Jimothy Slimps gave $6.66. Hail to the devil. Hey, TJ, was wondering your take on this. For the past 2 years, after I tried shrimps for the first time, I've constantly see at the edge of my vision the face of an angry man. I can hear him screaming, you know, while he's screaming an expletive that I probably shouldn't say on YouTube. It's one of the few that you can't get away with on YouTube. And other racial slurs with insect lust. Help me. Yeah, you know, that's pretty scary. Cunty Cat gave 1169 and says, what you're describing is why, even in a swing state, I'm only voting green, not Biden. So long as centrist Dems win, why would they change a winning strategy? Centrist judges and pretty much only rhetoric on the environment doesn't cut it, at least for me. I mean, let's remember that centrist judges, while not ideal, are a fuck of a lot better than right-wing judges, right? Because a centrist judge is probably not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. A centrist judge, I mean, like, so many fucking aspects of your, like, you don't realize how many fucking, like, so let's say, like, there's, like, crazy laws on the books. Like, in Louisiana, for instance, there's laws on the books, like, if you have, like a cartoon depiction of BDSM hanging up in your house and, like, someone sees it somehow, then, like, you can go to jail. Now, that's not enforceable under the fucking First Amendment. Like, that law would never actually pass muster. But it's on the books. So let's say Louisiana decides to actually enforce that law. Like, someone has, like, a nude painting in their house or something, and there's some sort of, like, what Louisiana deems like an unnatural sex act going on in the painting. Like, it's a dominatrix whipping her slave boy or something. They can be, you know, like, let's say Louisiana's like, yeah, you're going to fucking jail, and their court holds it up. And let's say it goes to the Supreme Court, right? Do you really want a right-wing Supreme Court at that moment? I think you want a centrist Supreme Court. Well, really, ideally, you want a leftist Supreme Court, but whatever, you know, like a centrist will do. Like, the Supreme Court is basically the highest authority in the land. The only thing higher than the Supreme Court is if there was just like a unanimous vote in Congress to pass a new constitutional amendment or something, which hasn't happened, and I don't even know how long. I don't even think it's happened in my fucking lifetime. So, you know, I don't know. Don't fucking sneeze at the importance of the courts, my friend. Ben Riley. Seems like the two-party system is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy because people use strategic voting instead of dynamic voting. He gives a link to explain what the fuck that is. I'm not going to look at it. Ben Riley again with another 666. The RNC has winner-take-all states, and a lack of superdelegates make them much better for an insurgent candidate than the DNC. Desperate times. OPS. The Tea Party was sort of AstroTurf. Thoughts on Nick Brana? I don't know who Nick Brana is. Yeah, the Tea Party was sort of AstroTurf, which means that they were kind of funded by powerful interests who, you know, were basically using them as useful idiots. But it doesn't change the fact that they were able to, you know, electorally change the party through primarying, you know, candidates they didn't like. So Hyperblob gave $6.66, says, just got fired. I'm thinking of ending it all. Have some money. Okay, so don't do that. So let me point this out to you. Your job sucked. Now you don't have to worry about it anymore. If anything, you should be fucking relieved, right? Now I know you need money to live, and you know, that's fine. You can figure out something else. Maybe you can find a better job. You look at it as an opportunity to do something better. And also, you know, unemployment is paying out pretty good right now. So fucking get you some unemployment, fucking kick back, relax, don't fucking do nothing stupid. And also, you know, I need every fucking fan I can get. So fucking don't die. So if you need a selfish reason on my part for you to stay alive, there it is. Ben Riley, again, 666. Also, if Biden is in, I'm confident the boomers will go to sleep because they need a literal enemy, not just a conceptual one. Question. How do you get out of the lesser of two evils loop that the elite can always use, a.k.a. brinksmanship versus MAD? So I don't know what the MAD, I don't know what that is. But how do you get out of the lesser of two evils loop? Hopefully by getting a party to nominate someone who's not evil. I know it sounds far-fetched at this point, but, like, I think that's our best shot is to fucking select a nominee who's not evil. Can I offer you $5 in this trying time, says Ultimore 1183. Yes, you can. Thank you very kindly for it. Evan W68 gave $2, and I guess he linked the fucking the Facebook meme. Let's see it. Let's see the meme. this it? I don't see how this is. The fuck is this? View full size? What am I missing here? Okay. So I don't get it. How's this about me at all? Let's see. Here, I'll show you. So it's a box, a YouTube box, and it's blurred out, and that's it. What am I missing? What am I missing here? I don't get it. Okay, I don't feel like that's directed at me. I don't even know what I don't know. I guess I don't get it. I'm too stupid to understand the complexity of a Steve Shives meme, I guess. It's beyond my comprehension. Gerb gave $11 and says, "Hey, TJ, I'm wondering if you had any experience on dealing with anger issues. I've been dealing with it for my whole life. I've been watching all your channels for almost 8 years and really enjoy your content. Hope you and your loved ones are all doing great." Well, thank you. What a nice message. That's so nice. Gerb is cool. Landland Scamey, weird name, gave $6.66, says, "TJ, I'm caught in a conundrum. So around 2 years ago, I found myself losing track of time and awareness. I'd come into the middle of some crazy tirade. It'll be at work, then blink and find myself screaming slurs at this kid, always the same." Okay, yeah. This guy keeps trying to get me to read racist shit. That's his shtick. "I'll give you money and then I'll work some covert racism in it." It's like, okay, good use of your time, bud. Thanks for the money. I appreciate that, at least. Let's see if we can find the beginning of these. Okay, here we go. M37F, the Plant God, gave $10. Says, "TJ is a self-aware prick. Vosh is a moralizing prick. Stop feeding him. Sorry, naughty words are censored." They're not censored on Streamlabs, I'll point out. But I don't know that I agree that Vosh is a moralizing prick and that I'm a self-aware prick. We're both pricks, though. I'll give you that. Richard Carte gave, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Maybe it's just Cart. Gave $1.99, says, "As a species, we're not ready for true unity yet." You ain't kidding. Indy gave $1.99. "How did you get on CNN back in 2013? I don't know. They just wrote me and was like, 'You want to be on?' And I was like, okay, and I did. Tristan Kratz gave $5. It says, "If you're looking for more progressive journalism beyond just Kyle and Jimmy Dore, watch the Empire Files on YouTube. They do quality journalism." Okay. Make a note of it. Empire Files. Okay. Hopefully I won't forget that now that I wrote it down on a random piece of fucking paper. Tony Spurgeon gave $5. Says, "Do you trust Fauci? Have you ever seriously disagreed with him?" I can't remember disagreeing with him, but I haven't really paid super much attention to any of that. The Plant God gave $2. Says, "Have you read State and Revolution yet?" No, I haven't. Tommy 1010 gave $4.99. Says, "Your fan base is made up of a bunch of Eric Stryker Nosbol types. I'm convinced I could convince any of these morons of the JQ." Okay, I don't know what that means, but thanks for the money. Tony Spurgeon gave $5. Says, "Just FYI, I don't regret my vote for Gary Johnson in 2016. All right, well, good for you, but it didn't do anything. Hackade gave $5 and says, 1, do you think the party system would be a problem if term limits were in place and money was out of the picture? 2, would a referendum help with policy? So as far as the term limits stuff, you know, I don't know that term limits really make much of a difference because the people, the electorate has to continue to vote for these entrenched politicians. Like, they have to continue to just convince people to vote for them. So I don't know, like, if you have a really good politician, like, you don't want their terms limited. You want them to stick around for as long as fucking possible. But unfortunately, like, people don't seem to view it that way. I don't know. Maybe term limits are a good idea. I'd have to look more into it. Money being out of the picture is probably a good idea, at least corporate money. I think that, you know, individual donations should be fine. As for the second question, would a referendum help with policy? I don't know what that means. You have to be more specific than that. It's too nebulous. PPK Nexus gave 666. If Jesse Ventura takes up even one of my key issues, universal health care, Medicare, he's got my vote. He already has clout and has won in the past. I mean, I don't know that Jesse Ventura is actually going to run. I think the Green Party has already chosen its nominee, and that was the one he was kind of talking about being in. He's not running as a Libertarian. So I don't know, unless he mounts an independent run, which I don't think he has the money to do. I don't really see how he's going to, you know, do that. Clone Loli gave $10 and says, I don't know if you saw TJ, but did you see Nancy Pelosi when she looked like she was literally melting? I think Shoe on Head tweeted it when I first saw it. I don't know. I don't think I've seen that. It sounds funny. She always looks like she's melting to me, though. Alan Rays gave $5, says Shaniqua Lust stuck a carrot deep up Oxhorn's pungent canal. She dipped it in blue cheese, strapped it on, and then ordered him to step up his head game. Gotcha. Hee Haw gave $2 and says the DNC and GOP have monopolized the U.S. government. Yeah. Hot Pop Calls gave $10, says TJ, can you give my Hot Pop Calls channel a quick shout out? I think if given a chance, people would love it. I've tried to get this channel off the ground for a while. I put a ton of work into it. Okay, well, there you go. Saucy Barbecue Wings. Vote Trump. Gave $9.99. Thanks for the money. Rogue Internet Man. Give me a smooch, TJ. Mwah. David M. gave $2. Says, I appreciate the people who gift tasty bum gifts. Just Zajic gave $1.99 and just said 5. Then he gave $9.99 and said, I had a bad day, but your videos always make me feel better somehow. David Camacho gave $10 and says, TJ, would you change your name to the Sister Fister for $1 million? Asking for a friend. Sure. Give me $1 million. Tristan Kratz gave $2 and says, how about Ralph Nader? He didn't have an impact. I mean, a lot of people said he was a spoiler, but he didn't even get 5%. So he's not much of a spoiler. Plant God again, $5. Revolution becomes more feasible when paired with a strong union movement to restrict supply lines to the military. Maybe you're right. Base gave $5 and says, in Soviet Russia, system revolts you. The Plant God, lol, no, actually read about Cuba, please. Okay. The Klausy Gamer gave $1. Jacob A gave $6.66 and says, so basically Vegas? I don't know what that's in reference to. Savage gave $5 and says, TJ, are there any journalists left that you consider credible, or is journalism essentially dying? Thank you for the great content. Keep it up. I don't think there's any, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't really think there's a journalist problem so much as there is a ownership problem. I think the people who own the newspapers are the real issue. I think there's plenty of people who are willing to go out there and search for stories. The problem is that the people who print the stories won't print the stories that need to be printed. Dangerman 5 gave €5. Or is that pounds? I think that's euros. He said, I have followed you from 2007. I know everything. Dramatic pause and then continue. Cool. Costel Iliscu gave $5 and says, hope you can mention Dysfunctional Mariachi as a likable band. Anyways, I appreciate your content. Stay safe and thanks for the show. Hackade gave $5 and says, do you think a People's Party could overtake the Republicans? Yeah. Pong Master Fong gave $5 and says, a bit confused from some of your videos. Do you like 9 Inch Nails and Rage Against the Machine? I like early 9 Inch Nails, and I've never really been a big Rage Against the Machine fan. Pong Master Fong again with $2 says, well, me personally, I love this movie, Space Cop. Cool. Steve Nated gave $50. Thank you. I spent over $50 on in-app purchases today. While I'm throwing my money away, might as well give some to you. I love your logic. RZ the Legend gave $1.99 and says, do you consider yourself progressive, TJ? You know, I hate labels. And the reason I hate labels is because I feel like when you get down to it, I don't really, I know that, they're useful in some contexts. So I guess if someone was to ask me directly, as you just did, like, are you a progressive? I would say yes. But do I go around like calling myself a progressive? No. And the reason is I hate names, and I hate the fucking little nuanced fucking differences between this thing and that thing. It kind of gets down to like genres of metal at some point. Like if you know any hardcore metal fans, they're going to be like, how can you fucking compare symphonic death metal to Norwegian doom metal? It's like, shut up, just fucking die. All right. Like, it's metal. All right. Like we don't need all this fucking micro distinctions for every little fucking thing, in my opinion. Like, I feel like you need a certain level of difference before you start making these distinctions. I would be more comfortable just calling myself a leftist in a general sense, and not like I'm a social democrat, I'm a democratic socialist, I'm a socialist, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other thing. I'm a leftist. I want us to move left. I don't know how far. I don't know what means. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I just know that there's certain things I want to happen in this country that aren't happening right now. That's what I know. Paul Master Fong, P.S. I love your Prager Pew video. Thank you. Freakadelic gave $10, says, two-party choice is self-fulfilling because of bandwagon effect. More talk / ads praying two parties suck, saying two parties suck, / we all want a third party could form bandwagon. Third party odds jump and attract non-voters to help more. Yay or gay? Yeah, I guess you could try to get people on a third party bandwagon, but where are you going to get the money to do that? You'd have to actually get a bunch of people together to raise money to buy ads that just make a general argument for a third party. And if that's the case, then why would you don't really need to do that so much as you just need to give money to a third party and try to make it a legitimate party, I guess, if that's what you're going to do. Put your money where your mouth is, I guess, is what I'm saying. Justice Isaac, $14.99. Good God, I am miserable. Sorry. I hope you feel better. Obi Alfred gave $2. Taking over the Dems won't work. Blowing me away with the detail, buddy. Blowing me away with the detail. Gyptix says, I want to see an episode about K-pop. Ugh, no. Mr. Naughty Priest gave nearly $100, just 1 cent shy at $99.99. Thank you again, Mr. Naughty Priest. You are the most generous human being on the face of the planet. TJ, the wine is flowing tonight. I hope you're having a good night. I worry about you, I do. Tristan Jones, Australia, $5. TJ, how did you and Paul meet and start working together? I watched him on YouTube a lot back in the day. Eventually we got talking. He came on to Drunken Peasants as a guest a few times. He resonated with the show really well, so we brought him on as a recurring Friday guest, and then he just joined the cast entirely. And then when I left DP, he joined me over on Deep Fat Fried. Riley Rowe says, you mentioned you're a big fan of Manson. Did he affect your political, religious views in any way? And any political artist you're a big fan of? Yeah, I'm going to actually be talking about Manson in a minute here when I talk about my various influences, as I promised I would at the top of this section. TJ, are you familiar with John Stuart Mill's book On Liberty? It's the foundation of modern libertarian left positions of free speech expression. Yeah, I'm familiar with it in that I've heard of it. I have not read it. Tristan Jones gave 10 Australian bucks. Says, think of me next time you're getting down and dirty and scream out my name. I don't know if Chelsea would like that. How would you feel if I screamed out Tristan Jones the next time we're having sex? She says it's okay. $5 says, how do you feel about Jeff Bezos possibly becoming the first trillionaire despite owning a company that is arguably one of the most unethical? Makes perfect sense within the context of our capitalist American system. Indy gave $1.99 and says, how many pets do you have? Well, let's see. I have a bearded dragon named Nova. I have 2 cats named Squeaks and Cornelius, and I have a dog named Salvador. So that would be 4 fucking pets. Unless I'm not forgetting a pet. I'm not forgetting one. I have a wife, I guess. Is that a pet? She seems to indicate that it is. She pointed at herself like, I'm your pet too. It's like, okay, cool. I guess that's true. So I know that some more Super Chats and Streamlabs have come in since I started reading these, but we're going to move on. They will be read in the future after I'm done with this next section. So what this next section is, I wanted to talk about the nature of myself a little bit. Because I kind of realized that there's something about my personality where I'll latch on to a person or figure, not necessarily in a way where I actually try to know them. You know, I don't like try to meet them or experience them in some sort of direct manner for the most part, but I do try to absorb as much of them as possible, like some sort of weird, like parasitic mosquito creature that's just like, I will consume your essence. What is in you, I will put into myself. Yes. Yes. And, I kind of realized I had a tendency to do that, as creepy as it sounds. And so I thought I'd look at some of the people, I'm not going to look at every single person that's ever influenced me, but I thought I would just kind of look at and talk about sort of like the major influences that have had some sort of profound impact on my personality, my beliefs, my style as a fucking performer or whatever the fuck you consider me. The first of which is, of course, the great, the powerful, the wonderful, the esteemed Marilyn Manson. So someone just actually asked a question about Marilyn Manson a second ago, asked like, what is it about Marilyn Manson? Did he influence your politics, influence your religion? Actually, someone on Twitter a moment ago, it's like as if people sensed I was about to talk about Marilyn Manson, questions about him started coming in. Someone asked me like, why do you like Marilyn Manson so much? Don't you realize he's a prick in real life? I was like, well, so am I, so who cares? And I don't really care. I've never believed that an artist of any stripe should be a role model or a moral guide or a good person or a nice person. I don't really give a shit. I don't even think they should be sane. To me, an artist should be someone who's fucking nuts and sees the world in a totally different way than the common motherfucker on the street. Because if you're just going to do that, then that's just useless to me. I don't give a fuck. And that's how you get fucking pop country bullshit. Like, corn makes rain. I'm sorry. Rain makes corn. Corn makes whiskey. Whiskey makes country bitches get real frisky. Whatever. Like, I don't need that garbage. That can go fucking blow a goat in hell. I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't want that. I want someone who's got a fucking unique perspective on the world. And I think Marilyn Manson fits that bill. Now, of course, Marilyn Manson himself, you can trace back his lineage to, probably, the early days of fucking rock and roll, like Little Richard's flamboyance and, the kind of dark edge of like a Jim Morrison. And I know the Beatles have actually influenced Manson in a huge way. Just that kind of like, maybe just the tunefulness of the Beatles. And, obviously like Ozzy Osbourne and Alice Cooper and lots of these guys. But by the time I was growing up, it was Marilyn Manson. And it was the 90s. Marilyn Manson's the big boogeyman, who's antagonizing the religious right, who's going on MTV and saying we will no longer be oppressed by the fascism of Christianity in one of the most shocking moments, I think, in television history. So I mean, obviously I was gravitating towards this sort of iconoclastic figure at a really, like, he came out just when I was hitting the age where I needed someone who was like looking around at the establishment, looking around at the status quo, looking around at the world and saying, like, fuck this shit. So, you know, I think there's a lot of people, honestly, who are disenfranchised, disaffected, who sit around and, like, look at the world and say, this shit fucking sucks, this shit fucking blows, everything is wrong, everything is bad, everything is shit. But most of them just kind of bitch and sit on their couch and grumble and complain. Marilyn Manson actually went out there and fucking created something that was an alternative. And I respect that. I like that. I also like his willing to go just further with the shock value stuff than anyone else in the mainstream ever did. Now, obviously, there's people outside of the mainstream, like your, you know, G.G. Allens or, you know, your Mayhems or whatever, who went way further than Manson ever did. But they never fucking... They didn't bring that to the mainstream. That shit was fucking miles underground, to where the fucking everyday person on the street never heard of it. You know, Marilyn Manson brought something that was, you know, shocking and dark into the living rooms of fucking America, and America fucking had a fucking hissy fit over it. I guess I'm blocking people who are trying to chat here. I should probably move myself maybe over this way, or maybe just up here. That'll probably be good. So I really respect that. I like that. I aspire to that. I don't really have the balls to be the Marilyn Manson kind of archetype, but you know, I think that's just awesome. I remember, I mean, obviously I've done videos and shit where I've painted my face up and done the makeup kind of thing. I don't do it super often. I did it on the last Abandon Hope, so people who are patrons probably saw like the makeup job I did there. Love the sense of style, love the sense of humor, love the fucking, love the anger of the early years, love the fucking, you know, dark gothic crooning of the more recent albums. Just couldn't, I mean, like, this is like my shit, man. This is what I listen to. 90%, not 90% of the music I listen to, but like, I don't know, 50%, like half of my music is usually just me listening to different Marilyn Manson songs, probably. So yeah, obviously hugely influential to me. Love the trailblazing kind of, you know, make your own path kind of attitude. And also the thing about Manson I like is he's a fucking dork. You know, like I remember when I was a teenager, I said, I want to be a rock star. And you know, my stepdad's like, you're the furthest thing I think of when I think of like what a rock star is. It's like, yeah, but that's kind of like, I think Marilyn Manson kind of changed that though. Like, he wasn't the cool kid in school. He wasn't like, you know, Mr. Gets All the Pussy or whatever the fuck. He's a fucking nerd. He's a dork. He's playing Dungeons and Dragons and shit. And I like the fact that someone like that went and fucking did something crazy and changed the landscape of popular culture indelibly and permanently. And it was a huge influence even to artists this day. I mean, like, tons of artists, even ones I don't give a fuck about, you know, still cite Manson as an influence. So, of course, from Manson, I looked into Satanism because I read the Manson's autobiography, Long, Hard Road Out of Hell, and I was fascinated by his description of meeting with, you know, not Aleister Crowley, what am I thinking? Anton Szandor LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, which, you know, is mostly a satirical religion, if we're honest. I mean, it's mainly just an excuse to dress up in gothy clothing and, you know, have big orgies in a mansion in San Francisco where, you know, you fucking scream Ave Satanas and light some candles and, you know, look at some big titties. And, you know, of course, it's like meant to spit in the face of like the predominant orthodoxy of the day, which was Christianity. And, you know, Christianity was this, you know, dominant force in the culture in a way that it still is to some extent, but, you know, it's diminished to some capacity. But in 1969, Anton Szandor LaVey, I forget what his real name is, you know, he founded the Church of Satan. He basically adopted a theatrical persona and lived it with a fervor. I always respect and admire people who can just totally disappear into a character. Just say, like, I'm tired of being fucking, you know, Brian Warner, fuck that. Now I'm Marilyn Manson. I'm tired of being whatever the fuck Anton Szandor LaVey's real name is. I'm Anton Szandor LaVey, and I'm a high priest in the fucking Church of Satan, and I define myself as antagonistic towards everything that the fucking prevailing culture of this country believes. And that's fucking awesome. I like people who fucking trailblaze and set their own path and do something unique and different, and don't fucking just like, yeah, I'm a fucking cog in the machine like everybody else. No, fuck that. I define myself oppositionally to that. I like that. Another person that I found through Manson, I don't know if you guys know Manson's work, especially Antichrist Superstar, was hugely influenced by Friedrich Nietzsche. So, of course, I went out and fucking read a bunch of Friedrich Nietzsche. I understood about 7% of it, maybe 8%. I feel like I understand. I've gotten better. Look, now I feel like I understand about 15 to 20% of Nietzsche. So I've gotten better. The thing I love most about Nietzsche, though, is the statement of God is dead, which, obviously doesn't mean the literal Christian God sitting up on a throne in heaven has died. It means that the concept of God, of this higher authority, is dying in the imagination of man, and the concept of meaning that we derived from this belief in a higher power has been tarnished and diminished. And I think it's interesting. There's different paths you can take from that sort of realization. And Jordan Peterson. It's a very important statement to Jordan Peterson too. Jordan Peterson responds to the statement of God is dead with sort of an idea of we have to resuscitate God. We have to figure out how to bring God back. We have to. Maybe we don't have to believe in a literal God, but we at least need to have like some sort of structural or institutional kind of conception of God. Like, you see this kind of shit from some right-wing YouTubers who are atheists but still believe that Christianity is positive as a social adhesive because it brings people together and it creates happiness and it creates a sense of meaning that humanity needs to survive. So even if there is no God, it's worth believing in God anyway, and it's worth embracing, Judeo-Christian culture and dogma. Now, I reject that idea soundly. Now, Nietzsche believed that what we should do is we should replace God with art. Art should become the new God. And I think that Manson was tremendously influenced by that because, in the rare instances that I've seen Manson talk about his spirituality, because he's not an atheist, he has some form of spirituality. He's never really delved into it too much. But when Manson has talked about his, religious convictions or whatever the fuck they are, he's always talked about art as God. So that's probably something that he took right out of the pages of Nietzsche. I happen to think we don't need a God. And I happen to think that we don't need a God. We don't need an actual God, and we don't need a belief in God, and we don't need meaning. I think that we're better off without that shit. And I think that the human psyche just needs to adapt and become strong enough to survive without those deeper wells of meaning. I think we need to recognize that what's meaningful to us is not necessarily meaningful in some larger intersubjective sense, and especially not in any sort of objective sense. So that'd be my prescription. But Nietzsche was the one who posed the question to me. He said, because implied in the question of God is dead is the question of now what? And my favorite question to probably be asked is probably now what? Because, that's why this stream is titled Now What, for fuck's sake. George Carlin. I don't think anyone's more influential in my life than George Carlin, because, as influential as Marilyn Manson is, I didn't grow up to become a fucking rock star, nor did I grow up to be a stand-up comedian, but I did grow up to be someone who talked for a living, someone who used words to convey ideas to an audience. And, I think I took a lot out of George Carlin's playbook. Especially in my scripted works, which obviously I'm doing more of a live stream thing right now, so this is not heavily scripted. But even then, I still make sure to outline shit. I still make sure to outline the basic series of premises that I'm going to present. And George Carlin was very much a structuralist in terms of his approach to art. His approach to speaking. Some comedians, they get up and do a lot of improv and just free form, free word association. George Carlin was not like that at all. He considered himself a writer who performs his own material. And I think that approach definitely rubbed off on me to a great extent. I can read a script and sound like I'm speaking extemporaneously the same way George Carlin can. And, you know, just the way he structured his thoughts, the approach he had to humor, all of that hugely influential on how I do things. But also, he wasn't just influential in terms of his manner of presenting ideas, but the ideas that he presented in and of themselves, I think, were influential to me. Now, I've backed away from the sort of don't vote position I held for many years, but the reason I held it for so many years was because of George Carlin. You know, and I think that just like his observations about the world, his cynicism, his pessimism, I feel like I've moved away from that stuff a little bit more in recent years, but for a tremendous swath of my lifetime, those were hugely influential elements in what I do. And I think that they're always going to be to some extent, even if it's just me looking back at them and understanding the psychology of people who do think that way because I thought that way for so long. And I still do to some extent. I still think that, you know, it's a very slim possibility of humanity actually doing something worthwhile with its existence. But I do hold out some hope. I no longer have the complete George Carlin fuck hope attitude. I've moved on to a fuck hope probably attitude. But, you know, still can't count out the influence of the man, the myth, the legend. Now, here's what I'm a bit embarrassed by. But when I was like 16, I read some Ayn Rand, and it's why I became a libertarian. Now, a lot of people like to point out at that moment that Ayn Rand didn't even like libertarians. Whatever. The libertarians have all the same beliefs as Ayn Rand. She only didn't like it because they didn't want to call themselves objectivists like she wanted them to be called. If they'd have said, we're objectivists and we worship Ayn Rand, she'd have been totally fine with them. But because they stole all her ideas but called themselves something else, she's like, they're fucking bullshit. I hate them. But they believed all the same shit she believed. So it was really her ideas that indoctrinated me into the cult of American libertarianism. Now, I still consider myself a libertarian. I'm a left libertarian, which is, I think, the real libertarianism. I don't believe that right-wing libertarianism is libertarianism at all. I think it's just corporate oligarchy. And I think the system we have now is already basically corporate oligarchy, and these people just want to take the chains off the beast and say, no, instead of them being our implicit masters, we want them to be our explicit masters. Because, of course, people like Ayn Rand always think that they're going to be the ones at the top of the fucking pyramid, and they're the ones who are going to be the shining examples, and ordinary people are stupid, and billionaire industrialists are so fucking smart and so much better than the rest of us. But, you know, I can't deny that her ideas impacted me. And like, she was telling me shit I really wanted to hear at the time. Like, selfishness is a virtue, and you're better than other people, and you're special. And, you know, it's basically like a self-help book for pricks. And everybody who reads Ayn Rand, even if you're a nice person when you start, you're gonna fuck. By the end of it, you're gonna be a prick. You're either gonna be a prick because you've bought into the ideals of Ayn Rand, and now you're just a fucking total and absolute piece of garbage, or you're gonna be a prick because you had to read Ayn Rand, and now you're just pissed. So yeah, I can't deny the influence though. And you know, when I first joined YouTube back in 2007, wow, I was a libertarian and I argued for libertarian ideals, and this chick is the reason why. So here's another comedian who has an influence on the style in which I deliver things. Not maybe so much today, but a lot in the past. Lewis Black. I love Lewis Black's volume modulations. I love how you can go from like, and that's why I think you're a fucking retard. You know, like I love the fucking really low, contained voice that's just, you could tell it's seething with rage, and then all of a sudden it explodes, you know? That's powerful. And I've used that to tremendous effect myself on several occasions. Just outright ripped it off. And, you know, people have called me on it. Like, you ripped off Lewis Black's shtick. I'm like, fuck you, whatever, I did. Yeah, that's what I do. You know, you don't plagiarize from one person, because that's plagiarism. When you borrow from many sources, that's like, you know, that's forming your own style. That's homage. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, you know. All right. So I'm not personally embarrassed by this next one, but I know a bunch of people are going to be like, cringe. Oh, it's cringe. So cringe. Cringe, 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 cringe. But I don't give a fuck. I don't care if it's cringe. I'm going to say it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Doug Walker was an influence. Now, do I freely, like, if I was to, in 2020, stumble upon a Nostalgia Critic video and just, like, start watching it for the first time, like, never experienced it before, I probably would be like, what else is on? You know? But, you know, at the time when I first started watching this dude, you know, I'd never seen anyone take the approach to videos he did. Now, granted, he was not actually the first person to take that sort of more refined approach of, like, instead of it just being a video where someone's ranting, it's like a show and it's using clips from existent media and commenting on them and, you know, reviewing not just as sort of like reviews as entertainment. Now, he didn't start that. Of course, that happened on television prior to him with, like, you know, Ebert and Siskel and Ebert at the movies. And it happened on YouTube before him in the form of the Angry Video Game Nerd, who I think was called then James the Nintendo Nerd or something along those lines. But I didn't see him till years later. This was kind of my first taste of, wow, you can really do something a little bit more refined in this medium. You can do something a little bit more creative than just turning on your camera and going, hey guys, God don't reel. You know what I mean? So that opened some new perspectives for me. And I really also, like, to this day, I really enjoy the early videos he did. Now, that's not to say I totally dismiss anything he's done in recent years, but it's not as good. And the reason that the early stuff, I think, worked so much better than the stuff he does now is because it was really quick. It didn't really matter that not all of his jokes were funny because they were quick. It was clip, joke, clip, joke, clip, joke, clip, joke, clip, joke. Now it's like long, meandering opening sketch that probably sucks. Clip, long, meandering joke that if it doesn't work, you're stuck with it for fucking the next 2.5 minutes or whatever. You know, so there wasn't as much of that. It was really much more, here's a clip from the movie, here's me reacting, here's a clip from the movie, here's me reacting. And I think the worst thing that this guy ever did, honestly, in terms of as performance, is slap himself with a label of critic. Because if you watch his early videos, he's not a fucking critic. He made no attempt to actually review shit. He just was making fun of it. And that worked so much better. The fact that he put critic in his name and people expect him to be a critic, he's not good at being a critic. He's not a good critic. He was good at fucking doing little jabs at retarded movies, summarizing them and poking holes in them, that's kind of what a critic does to some extent. Sure. But like when he tries to do this like in-depth, thoughtful analysis, 9 times out of 10, it's painfully superficial and simplistic, and it doesn't do any sort of like real deep dive into the material. At this point, like, Lindsay Ellis is a better nostalgia critic than the nostalgia critic. I hate to say it. But she actually has the chops. Like, she has the intellectual chop. She still does that quick sort of like reactive stuff and comedy, but then she follows it up with the in-depth analysis, which he doesn't have the capability of doing, so he probably should, whatever. I'm not here to fucking shit on him. He's an influence. I love what he did. I think that he fucking changed the game, and, you know, a lot of people owe him a debt of gratitude for the fucking, you know, shit he pioneered along with AVGN. What? What are they saying? Yeah. I saw it. Look, you know what? I'll fucking, not only have I seen the Wall review, I will kind of defend the Wall review a little bit. So, I mean, like, in the context of someone who makes weekly content, like multiple videos every week, that Wall review is pretty fucking ambitious. Now, like, if this was a person who, like, only put out a video every few months or something, and they put that video out, I'd be like, that's absurd. But the thing is, like, when he's putting out videos every single fucking week, I mean, like, the fact that Wall shit, like, he even tried something as ambitious as that, even if it is a resounding failure and cringy as hell, I kind of respect the balls of that. But maybe it's just my love of like schlock in general. I love low budget shit. I love passion shit. I love shit that's not really that good by any fucking real metric. I love schlock movies. I love absolute fucking garbage with terrible special effects and bad acting and bad writing but that has passion in it. And I think that's just an example of that to me. I can enjoy it the same way I enjoy like The Room or like I watched Troma's War the other night because Joe Bob Briggs was doing it on the last drive-in, stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know. The fact that it was as ambitious as it was for a content creator who's making multiple videos every single fucking week. I mean, I just imagine like the amount of time that this dude had. Like I know how much like of a hell production is. So the idea of approaching something like a project like that while still maintaining a weekly schedule is just mind-blowing to me. So I have tremendous respect, and fuck anyone who doesn't. Seriously. Anyway, like I said, I have my criticisms, but so Bernie Sanders. I think that Bernie Sanders did a lot to move me in a leftward direction. I think all I needed was someone to kind of crystallize some of those thoughts and opinions. I had always considered myself left-leaning, or at least not always, because I told you I used to be a right-leaning libertarian, but pretty much since like 2008, I made the switch to, well, first I made the switch to liberal. I realized how full of shit that was, and I had to move further to the left. But I really didn't have the vocabulary to describe what my ideal society was, what it consisted of. I knew I didn't like right-wingers. I knew I thought their ideas were stupid, but I didn't really have a way to articulate what I thought needed to be done. And Bernie Sanders gave me the beginnings of that. He gave me the early architecture for how to phrase that stuff, what ideas I think are important, what ideas I think should be embraced. And, to a lesser extent, after I encountered Bernie Sanders, I found Kyle Kulinski, who probably the first person on this list that I've actually had conversations with and stuff. But, I love that Kyle was constantly out there ripping apart right-wing talking points and pushing left-wing talking points. And, I found, like, I don't agree with Kyle 100% of the time, but I found that I was agreeing with what he would say, like, 80% of the time. Now, unfortunately, it kind of got to the point where I sort of knew what he was going to say with each video, so I don't really watch him as much as I used to for that reason, because I kind of already know what his take is usually going to be. Like, and a lot of times I'll turn on the video and I'll watch the stuff he plays, and then I'll watch like maybe a few minutes of his thing. And if I feel like I know where it's going, I kind of like, all right, well, next, so I don't watch quite as much as I used to. I still watch it pretty regularly. But now I've been watching a lot of Vosh. As people know, I had a conversation with him on his channel. And I'm loving his style as well. Very different from Kyle Kulinski's style. He's way more left than Kyle. But I find I agree with a lot of his stuff too. I disagree with him more than I disagree with Kyle. Kyle was someone I was like constantly like, ooh, I agree with that. 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 Vosh is more like, oh, I agree with that. Oh, that one, not so much. Oh, okay, that's good. Not so much. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't know. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. But love the style with which he delivers shit. Love the fucking no nonsense manner of delivery. Just love that forthrightness. And of course, I think it's because of him that I'm doing so many of these streams now, because he kind of showed me like, this is the power of fucking streaming. This is what you can actually do with streaming. He changed my opinion of what a fucking stream could be, because I always thought like as a solo performer, like, I don't know how to fucking stream solo. I know how to do it as part of like a cast, like on Drunken Peasants or Deep Fat Fried, but I didn't know that like you could actually kind of like put together a show on your own, with salient talking points and stuff. So I got to give tremendous credit for that. Got to pay homage to that shit. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up there with the influence stuff, at least. I do want to talk about some other stuff. We're going to move on to Vermin Supreme. I think Vermin Supreme is pretty interesting. Now, I did want to point out that I'm still accepting Streamlabs and Super Chats, and, they will be read at the end of the show. As you guys know, I read some of them a little bit ago, but now I'm going to read some more. Not right now, but after I look at this Vermin Supreme shit. So I was kind of fascinated. Now, I've heard the name Vermin Supreme round the way for years now. And I never really looked into it. I was like, Vermin Supreme, that sounds retarded. I don't fucking care what that is. I don't want to know. You guys have fun with your little Vermin Supreme shit. I'm going to be over here not caring about that. And I found out the dude has run for president in pretty much every presidential election since 1992. Ran in 92, ran in 96, ran in 2000, ran in 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, and he's running again, of course, in 2020. That's kind of just what he does. And he's kind of run as you see here, a performance artist, an activist, and a political satirist. Never really intending to win any sort of contest or anything like that. But he's running right now for the nomination of the Libertarian Party, and he's won 2 states. He's won Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And Massachusetts is his home state. He's his competitors here. His 2 biggest competitors are Joe Jorgensen, who has won 1 contest. Looks like Nebraska, I guess. And then Jacob Hornberger is the presumptive frontrunner right now in the Libertarian Party, who has won in 7 states. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is that, Vermin Supreme has a pretty real chance at this point of winning the nomination of the Libertarian Party, which kind of blew my mind because I kind of always thought, well, he's just a joke candidate. Now, the Libertarian Party, they're not going to win a presidential election, but, you usually know who the fuck their candidates are. I kind of thought Vermin Supreme was just a complete joke candidate, had nothing, really of value to say or do, whatever. But then I saw these ads he's putting out, and I got to say I'm pretty impressed with the fucking political ads the dude is putting out there into the zeitgeist. So let's take a look at one right now. This is a fucking campaign ad for Vermin Supreme. Why is there no volume? Oh, it's because I turned off the volume. There we go. That's pretty dope. That's pretty fucking dope. That one's good. This next one I'm going to show you is even fucking better. This one really blew my fucking mind.
We aren't supposed to live this way. We are forced to stay in a corner and do as we're told, while people who presume authority over us live like royalty at our expense. We are robbed to pay for endless war, endless brutality, endless harm of innocent people. We are left hopeless, scared, disillusioned, broken. We watch unimaginable suffering all around us, and we feel powerless to stop it. But we're not powerless, and we don't have to live this way. We own ourselves. We were made to be free. We were made not to harm each other, but to help each other. We own our lives, our bodies, our labor, and our property. We will stand side by side and help one another. We will fight back against anyone who would try to control us. Now is the time to reject false authority. Now is the time to disrupt. Now is the time to heal. I'm Spike Cohen, and you are the power.
These are not joke ads of like a joke candidate. You know what I mean? Like, they seem pretty fucking serious about this. So that kind of fascinated me. And I decided to look a little deeper into it. So the first thing I did was I went to the Libertarian Party website, kind of see what was going on here. Now, this is kind of suspicious. They pretty much buried Vermin Supreme at the very bottom, okay? And I get it because they've alphabetized the candidates, but who the fuck alphabetizes people by their fucking first names? It's like they found an excuse to fucking put them at the bottom. You know, like Adam Kokesh, who I've talked to. It's so weird to see fucking Adam Kokesh on a... Oh, Adam Kokesh is going to be fucking president. Okay. He's a nice guy. I like Adam, but geez, no way. I would never. It would be a disaster. If like the fucking idea of a world where Adam Kokesh is president. No. No, dear God, no. But yeah, they fucking put the candidates in alphabetical order based on their first name, which I've never seen done in any other fucking place or system, because they know, like, oh, Vermin, that starts with a V. We can put him towards the bottom if we do that. So it's like they've tried to bury him here in the bottom. And I guess a lot of libertarians are like, we don't want a fucking joke candidate. But then they got this guy with fucking goofy taxation is theft, yellow fucking top hat. Like, oh, that's legit. That's respectable. Like, you guys are the wingnut party, so come on. Like, you know, maybe people consider Vermin Supreme a joke, but people also consider the Libertarian Party a joke, okay? I know you guys like this party of principle, TM, you know? I love how you got a trademark on the party of principle, by the way. Like, they went to the U.S. government and said, hey, we want this trade. Like, if you trademark something, that means you're going to want to enforce the trademark. You're going to enforce, if the government enforces your trademark, isn't that, like, violence by the definition of the fucking Libertarian Party? That's kind of weird. Anyway. So they kind of are trying to bury Vermin Supreme, and I guess I've read that a lot of libertarians are none too keen on being represented by a dude that goes around with a boot on his head. But goddamn, I hope he wins. Either that or I hope this fucking psycho. Like, look at some of these other candidates. Let's just take a moment to appreciate these fucking libertarian candidates, okay? So there's Adam Kokesh, which I got to admit, in this lineup of people, he looks the most respectable. Give him that. He looks the most fucking respectable. You got Arvin, Vora, whatever. He's got, you know, a big toothy grin guy. Brian Ellison looks like a guy who fucking like skins rabbits or something. Daniel Berman, who looks like he'd be like he looks like a used car salesman with a fucking crappy gimmick. Eric Gerhardt, who looks like someone who'd show up to one of my fucking fan meetups, honestly. Jacob Hornberger, who looks like a fucking nightmare. Not so much here, maybe, but we're going to get a closer look at the motherfucker. James Ogle. There's always like 20,000 people running to be the Libertarian Party candidate, by the way. You got James Ogle here, who, I don't have much to say about him. Kind of looks like a fucking alternate reality libertarian version of James Carville. Jedediah Hill. Not Jebediah, Jedediah. And he looks like the fucking... he looks like a fucking dude at like an Irish pub who gets knocked out in a movie, you know? He looks like I'm Paddy O'Donovan, you know? And then someone punches him in the face and he fucking collapses. Jim Gray, who looks like he raped your mother back in the 70s. Joe Jorgensen, who looks like a PTA mom. John Mons, who I don't know. I don't know what to say about John Mons. Black conservatives are always kind of funny to me. Justin Amash, who I guess there was some news articles about this guy. Like, he might be a thing. He wasn't. He actually already dropped out. Keenan Dunham, another fan of mine. Ken Armstrong. I don't know what he looks like. Kenneth Blevins. Kind of looks like a skinny Sargon, honestly. I guess Sargon has lost weight, though. Louis Vanacore. God, that dude looks as confused as Joe Biden. He looks like he's just like staring into the fucking abyss right now. You know what I mean? I shouldn't be blocking him. He looks like he's staring into the fucking abyss. It's like a fucking, what do they call it? 100-yard stare. Mark Whitney just looks like a douchebag. Phil Gray. Look at this dude's eyebrows, for fuck's sake. Like, he looks like, you know, when you get to design your own character in, like, a game, and you can, like, control little features. It looks like someone just took the fucking eyebrow feature and just placed them as far apart as the program would let them be. There's literally, like, another eyebrow worth of distance between his two eyebrows. It's fucking nuts. Rhett Smith, who looks like he doesn't even know he's running for the fucking Libertarian nomination. Sam Robb, who looks like just the smuggest piece of shit you've ever seen. Looks like he just took a shit on your carpet and now he's mocking you. Doesn't he? He does. Soreen Ardalanu. I don't know. I have nothing to say about her. Soraya Foss. Looks like she stripped in the early 2000s, maybe. Steve Ritchie, who looks like he would literally strangle you to death. The guy, I mean, he looks like a fucking psycho. He looks psychotic. I hope he's not actually psychotic. I'm just saying he looks it. Like, he looks like the kind of guy that would just beat you to death with a fucking tire iron because you looked at him funny or because the voices told him to. And then you got Vermin Supreme, the lovable old man with a boot on his head. I mean, like, how do you not love it? You know? How do you look at this lineup and pick anyone but the lovable old codger with a boot on his head, for fuck's sake? Haven't seen a Streamlab or a Super Chat come in a while. Come on, guys. Come on. I still need those tasty donos. We're going to read them at the end. I told you this. Let's take a look at the platform of our good friend, Vermin Supreme. So, on the personal liberty stuff, I like this. Joe Bidening again. I like what he's got to say here. You know? Individuals own their own bodies, have rights over them that other individuals, groups, governments may not violate. Cool. Privacy. Libertarians advocate individual privacy and government transparency. We are committed to ending the government's practice of spying on everyone. We support the rights recognized by the Fourth Amendment to be secure in our persons, homes. Yeah, awesome. Great. Personal relationships. We don't care about your sexual orientation, preference, gender identity. None of that should have any impact on how the government treats you. Doesn't really outline any ways in which you can, not be discriminated against by, private businesses and stuff. I guess they support that as libertarians. But at least they're against government discrimination. Crime and justice. Government force must be limited to the protection of the rights of individuals to life, liberty, and prosperity, and governments must never be permitted to violate these rights. Laws should be limited in their application to violation of the rights of others through force or fraud, or to deliberate actions that place others involuntarily at significant risk to themselves. What does that mean? Violations or to deliberate actions that place others involuntarily. Okay, I got you. Therefore, we favor the repeal of all laws creating crimes without victims, such as gambling, the use of drugs for medicinal or recreational purposes, the consensual transactions involving sexual services, prostitution. We support restitution to the victim of the fullest degree possible at the expense of the criminal or negligent wrongdoer. Okay. I guess I mostly agree with that. They oppose the death penalty, or he opposes the death penalty. Self-defense, believes that's the only legitimate use of violence. So I agree with 99-ish% of all that. Personal liberty, that's all great. I'm down for the personal liberty stuff. So let's talk about economy, though. While energy is needed to fuel modern society, government should not be subsidizing any particular form of energy. We oppose all government control of energy pricing, allocation, and production. I guess I agree with that. Government finance. All persons are entitled to keep the fruits of their labor. We call for the repeal of income tax, the abolishment of the Internal Revenue Service, and all federal programs and services not required under the U.S. Constitution. We oppose any legal requirements forcing employers to serve as tax collectors. We support any initiative to reduce and abolish any tax and oppose any increase on any taxation for any reason. No. No, that's crazy talk. you can't get rid of taxes. They pay for too many goods. They pay for too many services that are useful to the people. Not only that, most people wouldn't be on board with this. If people were like, yeah, like people, if you told them like, yeah, we're going to get rid of the IRS and all taxes are going to be gone. It's like, cool. Yeah, finally. Sounds great. And we're also not going to give you your Social Security checks, and there's not going to be any more unemployment benefits, and there's not going to be any more disability benefits, and there's not going to be any more roads to drive on unless they're privately owned and you have to pay a toll. And people would be like, oh, wait, never mind. Fuck that. That sucks. Never mind. We don't like that anymore. That's not a good idea. That's not something that appeals to most people. It's just crazy talk. Money and markets. We favor free market banking with unrestricted competition among banks and depository institutions of all types. Markets are not actually free unless fraud is vigorously combated. Those who enjoy the possibility of profits must not impose risk of loss, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that seems fair enough. Licensing. Libertarians support the right of every person to earn an honest and peaceful living through the free and voluntary exchange of goods and services. Accordingly, we oppose occupational or other licensing laws that infringe on this right. So basically, they just think like anyone... So like, let's just go to the first thing that comes to your mind when I say licensing. What about a fucking... a license to drive a car? They don't think the government should license drivers, so they just think like if you have a car, you should be able to drive it. You shouldn't have to learn anything about traffic laws. You shouldn't have to obey stop signs. You should just get behind the vehicle. Get behind the wheel of your vehicle. Just drive. No fucking speed limit. None of that bullshit. Just fucking drive, man. You don't need a license. You don't need to fucking pass a safety course. You don't need to know what the fuck you're doing. Just, you got a car, use it. No. Crazy. Once again, crazy talk. Not good. Sex work, I'm sure I agree with this. Libertarian Party supports the decriminalization of prostitution. Yeah, great. Yeah. Selling is legal, fucking is legal. Why isn't selling fucking legal? There you go. Labor markets. Employment and compensation agreements between private employers and employees are outside the scope of government, and these contracts should not be encumbered by government-mandated benefits or social engineering. We support the right of private employers and employees to choose whether or not to bargain with each other through labor union. Bargaining should be free of government interference, such as compulsory arbitration or imposing an obligation to bargain. This is the most fucking retarded position I've ever read in my life. Like, for a guy who fucking has ads that are like, you are the power, you are the people, this just spits right in the face of that. This just says, this basically just takes that and wipes its fucking ass with it. Because there is no fucking, like, without labor, like, so if you don't have government protection of labor unions, unions are busted, as they have been historically throughout history. Unions are busted through corporate violence, through fucking, infiltrators and all this other stuff. Unions get busted, and workers have no ability to fucking bargain with their employers. And, if we just get rid of all labor laws and social engineering, so to speak, then you're going to see the return of the 16-hour work week. You're going to see the return of child labor. You're going to see the return of fucking unsafe working conditions, which already still exist, but you're going to go back to the industrial revolution era fucking safety regulations where people are constantly at risk. This is just untenable. And, the power dynamics here are just not fair for the fucking worker. You don't have the ability to fucking bargain with a corporation for your fucking pay rate, If they fucking, like, this could be we're talking about, like, you could be the return of the fucking company store, where you go to a fucking town and work for a company where you're paid in company script that's only fucking, worth anything in that town. So all the money you make just goes right back to the company, So basically it's just a fucking slavery with extra steps. Fuck that. You can't fucking, this is why I don't buy that the Libertarian Party is actually libertarian. Because they don't fucking advocate for freedom. They advocate for people to be slaves to fucking corporate interests. Fuck them. And fuck Vermin Supreme and his stupid goddamn boot on his stupid goddamn head. He's a moron. He's a fucking twat. Okay? So I saw those ads and I was all jazzed, like, yeah, freedom, cool. Then I read this shit and I was like, fuck this guy. I hope he dies. I hope legitimately he fucking dies. Garbage. Garbage, folks. It's garbage. All right, I don't know what about this one. Securing liberty. All right, let's see what we got. We support the removal of government impediments to free trade. Political freedom and escape from tyranny demands that individuals not be unreasonably constrained by government in crossing of political boundaries. So basically open borders. Cool. But it's basically open borders because, yay, cheap slave labor from other countries. Because they want to set up basically a fucking corporate oligarchy here in the United States. So, yeah, cheap labor is great. Oh, it's people who are too stupid to fucking even fucking less of a position to bargain with us? Awesome. We can exploit them even harder than the American workers. Bring them on in. Bring them on in. It's awesome. It's great. Rights and discrimination. Libertarians embrace the concept that all people are born with certain inherent rights. We reject the idea that a natural right can ever impose an obligation upon others to fulfill that right. We condemn bigotry as irrational and repugnant. Governments should neither deny nor abridge any individual's right based on sex, wealth, ethnicity, creed, age, national origin, personal habits. Yeah, government can't do it. Members of private organizations retain their rights to set whatever standards are. Yeah, so basically, once again, they're only libertarian where it concerns the government. As far as corporations go, as far as business interests go, as far as capitalists go, they control it's basically like, to the extent that the government impedes private corporations from just completely running things, that's the extent to which we got to get rid of the government. We think it's ridiculous the government would fucking, abridge the rights of a human being based upon sex, wealth, ethnicity, age, creed, national origin, personal habits, political preferences, or sexual orientation. But it's fine when a corporation does it. That's neato. That's freedom. No, that's not freedom. That's not fucking freedom, bitch. Fuck you if you think that's freedom. If you think that's freedom, you don't know what fucking freedom is. You shoe on your head, motherfucking piece of goddamn garbage. No offense to the actual shoe on head. Fuck Vermin Supreme up the ass. What a fucking poser. What a phony. What a crock of shit. Self-determination. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of individual liberty, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Yeah, go ahead and fucking... We already discussed the problems with that fucking bullshit. Omissions. Our silence about any particular government law, regulation... I already know what you think. I already know what you think. But if you think Vermin Supreme sucks, and I do, check out this fucking guy. Just look at this. Just look at this. Look at this front runner of the Libertarian Party, dude. Look at him. For fuck's sake. Look at the man. What the fuck is that? What is that? That's not a human being. That is not a human being, folks. He literally looks like a young man wearing old man face makeup, doesn't he? And if you saw him in a movie, you'd be like, oh, that's some of the worst age makeup I've ever seen. But that's his fucking face. Ew. That's the front runner? Gross. I mean, what am I looking at here? What am I fucking looking at? Let's see what he fucking says on the issues. Oh, I bet it's even more repugnant. At least fucking Vermin Supreme fucking can like LARP as a freedom lover. This guy can't fucking... This guy's... You can just tell he's evil. You just tell he's evil. Look, let's go to his welfare state. What do you think about that? Separate charity and the state. America's welfare state system is based on the concept of mandatory charity, which isn't really charity at all. Genuine charity is based on voluntary giving, not on the coercive apparatus of government. The welfare state concept originated among German socialists in the late 1800s. It formed no part of American life from the inception of the country to the 1830s when the why don't you describe the state of the country prior to the 1830s, you prick? Why don't you describe fucking child labor and the 16-hour workday and fucking, workers just being fucking crushed under the boot heel of fucking industrial capitalist pigs? Why don't you fucking describe that, you cocksucker? Instead of fucking portraying it like some golden age of America when everything's good because the capitalists could just rape you in the fucking streets. When the adaptation of Social Security launched the modern-day welfare state, a type of government system that forcibly takes money from those to whom it belongs and gives it to those to whom it does not belong. What a prick. What a fucking cocksucker. Ugh. I feel gross. I feel gross that I used to identify with these politics. Fuck me from the age of 16 to the age of like 22. Fuck me during that time period. I was gross. Yuck. What does he think about abortion? Is he going to be pro-abortion or anti-abortion? I believe that life begins at conception and therefore that abortion involves the wrongful taking of a human life. Wow. What a libertarian, you guys. What a libertarian. God, it's so, like, the beauty of his, he loves freedom so much. Can't you just tell? Oh my God, the freedom. Oh, it just radiates. Yeah, we don't want to abort that baby because it could be a fucking factory worker in one of my fucking sweatshops one day when I turn America back into a fucking third world country run by fucking, robber barons and shit. Oh, yeah, that's going to be fucking so useful. Another cog in the fucking machine. Can't fucking lose a cog. Shouldn't be a woman's right to deprive us of one of our fucking cogs. We can make money off that thing. Don't you know that? Regulation. Let me guess. You're against it. Separate economy and the state. A genuine free market system is one in which economic enterprise is free from government control, regulation, and interference. Yeah. Because, that's why I love when a company just, I think they should just be able to pollute at will, if they want to fucking poison a river or something. That's classic. I just think it's great. I think it's fucking awesome when they pollute rivers and pollute the air and fucking exploit their workers and pay them unfair wages and unpaid overtime. And, there's just nothing to stop them. I think that's great because that's freedom, man. That's so free. I think true freedom is going to your fucking hovel that's owned by the same company you work at, at night, and then, getting fucking 6 hours of sleep and then waking up the next morning with your entire body sore from the day before and then trudging back into the factory for another 16 hours of grueling, menial, miserable labor. And then going back home and doing it all again. That, to me, is the true definition of fucking freedom, my man. That's so beautiful. And if you don't want that existence, just becoming a billionaire industrialist yourself. It's the easiest thing in the world. Just pull yourself up by your fucking bootstraps. If you have ingenuity and know-how, you can do it too. That's the beauty of fucking free market capitalism. Oh, it's so easy to do. Enough of that piece of shit. Let's see his fucking ad. Let's see this fucking disgusting, wilted mummy of a man in fucking movement. What a fucking... He looks like a nightmare. If you saw this in your dreams, you would wake up in a cold sweat screaming.
I'm Jacob Hornberger, a candidate for your nomination for President of the United States. When I entered this race
Look at his nose hair. Look at his fucking nose hair. Trim your nose. You're running for president, for fuck's sake.
months ago, it was with one aim in mind. I want to live in a free society. I want everyone to live in a free society. A genuinely...
No, you don't. No, you don't, you lying sack of shit. No, you don't. I read your policy platforms. You want fucking industrial fucking servitude to the fucking robber barons. That's what you want. You want everyone to be a cog in your little capitalist machine that's fucking only useful in as much as they can fucking produce fucking material goods that you can fucking sell at a profit and they don't get a fucking cut. Or they, well, no, they get a cut, but it's so miserably low that they can't even subsist on it. So fuck you. That's not freedom. That's no one's definition of freedom but yours, you evil fucking stage makeup looking cocksucker.
Free society. This race has been a transformative event.
I can't get over the fucking fact that I'm looking at this dude's nose hair right now. Like, I can't get over it. Like, what are you doing, dude? Get a nose hair. It's like...
For me. I've attended around 16 state conventions. will have participated in around 20 LP presidential debates. And this string of election successes that we've had since January has absolutely stunned me.
stunned me too.
And near wins in statewide primaries and caucuses all across the country, and wins and near wins in several LP state convention straw polls. The reason that this has been so exciting and gratifying for me is that it shows me that
yeah. What is this? What is this? So, like, we're going to put some, like, blue smoke behind you, and we're going to, like, have a brick wall, and we're going to move the background. It's going to look real dynamic and exciting. At least fucking Vermin Supreme's ads look good. This is horrible. This is like an ad of why not to vote for this fucking guy. Hello, I'm a hideous goblin that's followed by a trail of blue smoke. And I don't know how to trim my fucking nose hairs, even though I'm running for fucking president.
That this idea of waging a totally different type of campaign than what Americans are accustomed to, a campaign that is based totally on pure libertarian principles.
Hasn't every libertarian run on that? It's like what libertarians have consistently done. That's why they're libertarians.
Ideals and ideas on liberty. A bold campaign.
I believe a man should have the liberty to let his nose hair grow long enough that he can put it in his mouth, chew on it, suck the boogers out of it.
A campaign of principle for the party of principle has been resonating positively, not only in the party, but in the movement.
The bowel movement.
I want to make the positive case to our fellow Americans.
God, I've been watching for 1 minute and 25 seconds, and I feel like it's been a fucking eternity.
For what a free society is. People have the natural God-given right to keep everything they earn and decide for themselves what to do with it. At the same time, I want to help people recapture a faith in themselves, in others, in freedom, free will, and the virtues of private charity to help those in need.
Private charity. Oh my God, so effective, dude. Yeah, because the needs of the American poor can be met by private charity. You know, if we just got rid of taxes, people would be so much more charitable. You know what I mean? Just be like, oh, you know, what do we do about the poor? Private charity. It's shown to be effective. Well, no, it hasn't actually. Can you name me like any country on the face of the earth where the problems of society have been solved through private charity? Like, show me one fucking problem ever that has been fucking wiped out by private charity. No, it takes governments initiating force to solve problems. Because you know what you can do if you don't, if the fucking, if you fucking want to work your workers to death, you know? Like, hey, I want to work my workers 16 hours a day. I think that I should be able to hire fucking 6-year-olds to work in my fucking plant. You know, if you think that that is the case, you know, you could, okay, am I going to look at like, oh, the charitable nature in my heart is going to prevent me from doing that? No, it didn't. Historically, it didn't. It took the government coming in and saying, this is fucked up. We're not going to allow this anymore, to stop that shit. Because guess what? You libertarians might not like the initiation of force, but it gets shit done. It gets shit done. You know what? You know what? I hate these people. I just fucking hate them. All right. Let's get through this.
A society based on sound money. A society where people from around the world are free to come here as human beings to better their lives. One in which people are free to ingest whatever they want to ingest. I want to restore the founding foreign policy of this country of non-interventionism. And most important, I want to restore the founding governmental system of America, a limited government republic with just a basic military force whose only mission is to protect the United States. This is the campaign of principle for the party of principle that I want to wage on your behalf.
Every fucking party has principle, all right? Every party has principle. The Republicans have principles. The Democrats have principles. You might not like those principles. I don't like those principles. I don't like your principles. You're not the party of principle. Like, these are not the only principles. Everyone's got fucking principles of some kind. Even if they don't tell you what they are and they're really like secret principles. Even if their real principle is like, slit everyone's throat and take their shit. That's still a principle. So principles, just having principles is not impressive. The nature of those principles is impressive. Your idea of like, we're going to go back to how things were at the inception of this country. That's fucking 200 fucking something years ago, bitch. You can't fucking wind back the clock to some previous bygone era and be like, yeah, it's all good. I hate it.
I want us to lead America to this
At least Republicans only want to take us back to the fucking 50s for the most part. This guy wants to take us back to fucking 1776.
genuinely free society.
I just hate how they misuse the term freedom. Like, no, it's not free. It's not free if there's no protections for workers from fucking corporate power. You have to have some sort of intermediary force to step in on the behalf of the workers, or it's not freedom. Fuck that guy. All right. Anyway, time to read the super chats and wrap this motherfucker up. All right, don't send any more in. Don't send any more in. You're done. I'm not asking for any more. I don't want any more. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it. All right. Let's read the donations first. Jane Gort gave $6.66, says, dude, you're the fucking best. Thank you for all you do and contribute to the world. You guided me on my journey to atheism, and I can't thank you enough. Well, thank you, sir. Inverted Jesus gave $6.66, says Florida AG trying to stifle recreational pot in 2022. And sent an article about it. Yeah, I'm a little... I guess we could check it out. I can't be checking out every fucking link you guys send, though. Okay, what do we got? Let's see if this is worth talking about. Legalized marijuana amendment goes before Florida Supreme Court. Tallahassee with... Did this just break? No, it didn't break. It just fucking got stuck. Whatever. I'll worry about that later. Tallahassee. With Attorney General Ashley Moody, lawmakers and groups such as the Florida Chamber of Commerce trying to block the measure, the state Supreme Court on Wednesday heard arguments about a proposed constitutional amendment that would allow people to use recreational marijuana. The political committee Make It Legal Florida is seeking to put out the proposal on the 2022 ballot, but needs the Supreme Court to sign off on the ballot title and summary, the wording that voters would see when they go to the polls. State Solicitor General Amit Agarwal, representing Moody, argued Wednesday that the Supreme Court should reject the proposal because it would be misleading to voters. Agarwal focused in part on wording in the ballot summary that says the amendment permits adults 21 years or older to possess, use, purchase, display, or transport up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana and marijuana accessories for personal use for any reason. Agarwal said that this is misleading because such things as possession and purchase of marijuana would remain illegal under federal laws. Well, several other states have done it, so that's dumb. If the Florida Supreme Court buys that argument, then that just shows once again that Florida is the land of the tards, the land of the retards, fucktards, shit-tards. I don't care. Every kind of tard there is. Florida's the land of them. Yeah, it sucks. That's garbage. Rectum 666. TJ, I know you're skeptical of aliens. I was wondering if you look into a guy named John Lear. He was close with Bob Lazar and seems reputable as a pilot. There are some interviews with him on YouTube with some interesting theories on UFOs and government stuff. Okay. Controde gave $5. Says, I too had a social rebel musician to look up to when I was younger. Mine was Genesis P. Orridge. I don't know what that is. Mr. Yen Bacon. Loving the self-examination, TJ. Keep up the content, mate. Been watching since 2014. Big love from Australia. Stay safe and stay well. Inverted Jesus. You should do a video on the Q cult nuts. I don't know what that is. But thanks for the suggestion. Controde gave $5. Says, what happened to that pug you used to have? Well, my ex-wife Took him when we got divorced, and he has since passed on. North Coast 255 gave $4 and says the ultimate goal of the left should be to alter the human genome. This will rid the human behaviors that that ultimately play a hand in our shitty system. I don't. I kind of agree. I don't know that we need to alter the human genome. I just think we need to augment human intelligence through transhumanism. I don't think it should be compulsory or anything. Ben Riley gave $6.66. Would you do a video on Ahmaud Arbery? Yeah, I think we talked about that on Flash Fried on the Deep Fat Fried channel. Evan W68 sent a link. I'm not clicking every link you guys send. All right. Spaced Out Feline gave $6.66. Says, say the world was ending at midnight tomorrow night. What would you want to die doing? I just fucking have Chelsea sit on my face, I guess. Cunty Cat gave $5. Says, sorry about your spank hentai law, though. That's fucky. Spank hentai law. Cunty Cat 1170 says, sure, a centrist court is better than a right-wing court, but I wouldn't rule out a right-wing set of judges anyway. Biden supported anti-ACA candidates, has decided to be against Obama's step towards peace with Cuba, and wants Republicans in his administration. Yeah, you're right. That is a fair point. Landland Scamey says, TJ, I'm caught in a conundrum. Okay, that's actually, I read that one earlier. So now it's on to the super chats. And I see some of you are still sending shit in. Don't send shit in. I'm done. I'm going to read what's already here, and then I'm done. I'm not refreshing after this. So I'm going to do one last refresh on this. And if you send it after now, it's not getting read, and I'm sorry. I gave you advance warning. Hey, TJ, I'm Yuki Plays on Twitch. I suck at video games, but I have fun. Love you, bud. Okay, cool. Akuz gave $5. Says, please review 1975 film Coonskin. It's racist as fuck and will give you as much and us much entertainment. It's not actually racist. It's actually anti-racist, but it does kind of come across as racist. And that's Ralph Bakshi, who's a terrific animator and made some great films, or at least I think they're great. TNT Fox gave $4.20. Says, will you bet Trump wins again live like 2016? I don't know. I already bet Scotty that Trump would not make it through his first term, and I probably lost that one. Pongmaster Fong gave $5. Says, take on Elon's open up the economy from Joe Rogan. I don't think I actually watched the Joe Rogan Elon Musk conversation, so I don't know. I know that Elon's been posting some really dumb shit on Twitter, though. Hackade gave $5 and says, takes money from those who it belongs to, maybe, but what the fuck are they doing with the money? Bill Gates pretends to do good things and still has 100 plus BS. He's got billions of dollars. Yeah. I mean, the whole way that these like a lot of these guys who have this money that they supposedly earned, I mean, they didn't fucking make that money. They hired people to do a job and then paid those people less than the job is worth and then took the surplus. That's like capitalism. So, you know, that's a bullshit system and it should be fucking fixed. And, you know, we've been trying to fix it for centuries now. Deep Fried Brains, maybe not centuries, but a century plus. Deep Fried Brains gave $20.20. What percent chance do you give Biden picking Kamala, that little girl was me, Harris? I would put the chances of him picking Kamala Harris at about 40%. Tie-Dye 85 gave $20. Says, hey, man, I am glad you read these at the end. I am a Pessimist Productions patron, and I suggest everyone able to do the same. They provide a lot of stuff. Thank you, TJ, Paul, Scotty. Thank you. Very generous guy. And, you know, I love that he gave me $20 just to promote my Patreon. That's great. Obnoxious SVF gave 10 Australian dollars. Eric Weinstein has proposed that student debt holders form a union to use that to form a power block. What are your thoughts on debt unions? I think it's a good idea. I mean, I'd have to look more into it. This is the first I'm hearing of the concept, but I like it. And intrinsically, I like it. I'd have to think more about it and kind of consider different angles, but my initial reaction is good. The Plant God, who's made several donations tonight. Thank him for his kind and generous nature. Gave $10, says, "You're my father figure more than my deadbeat dad." Thanks, buddy. Cool. I'm glad I'm raising a new generation of degenerate fuck-ups. That's great for me. Oni Lord Miki gave me $10 and says, did you ever think about maybe sitting down and talking with the DFF brain beast? What if it's lonely and it's just rampaging through the city to look for friends? Yeah, the brain beast that we kill at the beginning of each episode. Yeah, I mean, I think it actually is an innocent bystander. I think it's kind of like the Ahmad Arbery of monsters, just minding its own business, and we fucking racially profile it. We're like, oh, it's a monster, it's got to be evil, but really he's just trying to fucking make some friends. Did you and Chelsea have an argument over her stream? No. Rich Evans once auditioned for Officer K in Blade Runner 2049. Keep on making vids, TJ. Oh, that's from Pongmaster Fong again, by the way. Another very generous repeat donor. Gave $10 this time. If there's a hell, I'll see you there. Cheers. Yeah, I'll be riding the fucking the magma wave on a surfboard of brimstone. Sabiara. Okay, I'm gonna fuck your name up. I'm sorry. Huyaji Sabuyaji Vinodanch. Wow. Gave $2 Australian and just says, shout out. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your fucking name. Mara Gowana, don't eat hamburger, eat hornburger. Ian Jones, Vermin Supreme reminds me a lot of the musician Moondog. I don't know who that is. Happily Ham gave $5 Canadian. Says, talk a bit about Christopher Hitchens. Was he not the best? May he rest in peace. Was he an influence? Yeah, Christopher Hitchens was great. Obviously I don't agree with his support of the Iraq War. Kind of a negative sort of stain on his otherwise great reputation. But I think that he was pretty much unparalleled in his ability to make arguments. I never saw him in a debate that he didn't not only win, but decimate his opponent. He was extraordinarily witty, completely bold, a great iconoclast, and I have nothing but nice things to say about his rhetorical skills. Jacob A gave $2. Do you think Bernie was justified in endorsing Joe? Well, he kind of painted himself into a corner when he stated at the beginning of the race that he would endorse whoever the nominee was. So that guy gave $5. Says, I'm sorry, I think I missed a few. Org Thran gave $2, says, are you fueled by filth and fury? Hell yeah. That guy gave $5 and says, would you agree that wealth needs limits in some form? Maybe not in number, but maximum percentage of business ownership and income. Jeff Bezos sucks. Yeah, I would agree that I think Jeff Bezos sucks. I agree with that. And I also agree with limiting wealth. I don't know if you need to necessarily, I kind of agree that you don't need to necessarily limit the amount of money a person can have, because that's a little bit too much of an invasion of personal privacy. But I do think that you could, maybe make some sort of percentage argument. I think another thing I've heard is that, like, the CEO of a company can only make so much as like 10 times the lowest paid employee of the company, or 50 times or whatever. Like we can figure out some kind of limit, but I agree fundamentally with some sort of idea like that. Not going to lie, I wish I had anyone in my life like you, just to have a sounding board to bounce ideas off of. Well, I'm sure you can find someone, dude. That's from Alucard. Jacob A gave $2. I already answered his question. That was the Bernie question. Alien Dos Alpes gave €2 and said, Napoleon Bonaparte, DFF, ep, coolest history person. Okay. Lion Slash 323 gave $5. Any meaningful change will take at least 10 years. Maybe. Sam Reagan gave $10 and says, Trump proves that the Republican Party is easier to infiltrate than the DNC. We need a brash New Yorker to make people laugh, and people will beg for socialism. Yeah, maybe. Maybe we just like, hey, I'm trying to fucking socialize healthcare here, Like, we need that guy. Maybe. I don't know. It could work. Jimmy Zappa, $4.99. Is there a movie that has made you cry as an adult? Oh my God, there's so many. I'm a pussy when it comes to movies. Coco made me cry. What else have I cried at? I've cried at some dumb shit, man. Like every movie that has any sort of sappy emotional moment, I've probably fucking shed a tear. Hey, Cade, gave $5 that says, what I mean by referendum is most of the country seems to be united on some issues like healthcare. Oh, you mean like putting these issues to like a popular vote nationally, like we do with like ballot initiatives in states and stuff. Okay, yeah. I think that's a great idea. I totally think that should happen. Mr. Steal Yo Man gave $4.99. Steve's joke was that you'll be the first YouTuber to drop back below 1 million subs and YouTube will take away your gold play button. Yeah, I've always wondered what I should do when I inevitably drop back down under 1 million. Like, should I send it back? Should I be like, here, YouTube, have your play button back? Or should I like melt it down into like a golden dildo and just like fuck myself with it as a sequel to Bananagate? I don't know. Stay tuned. Happily Ham gave $2 Canadian and said, brick. Stephen Cruz gave $2 and says, people with money bad. That's why you should give it all to me. Ken Mix gave $10 and says, hey, TJ, how do I maintain my long-distance relationship in quarantine? My girlfriend's family is strict Muslim Pakistani, and I can't see her and can barely FT her. What does FT mean? I don't know. I can only text and Snapchat and send memes. I don't know. I guess that's the best you can do. Pretty Kitty gave $5 and says, I'm really enjoying all your recent content. Take care of yourself and try not to stress. Well, stress is my middle name. Mr. Manbuzz gave €2 and says, hey, TJ, could you unblock me on DFF's channel, please? I don't know if you were blocked. I've never actually blocked anyone from the DFF channel, so I don't know. If you were blocked, it's probably Scotty, honestly. You should go to Scotty and ask him. Henry Hill, £5. I'm starting to learn the difference between the pound symbol and the euro symbol. Yay me. I got blocked for the first time in 15 years for saying I know all your history. I don't think you've been blocked. Indy. Unless Chelsea blocked you. Did you block a guy? No, on this channel. Oh, okay. Well, you're full of shit then, dude. Indy, $1.99. How many pets do you have? I already answered that one. I think we've reached the end. Okay, yeah, we're done. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every last motherfucking one of you. And, stay tuned, man. Stay tuned for more great streams in the future. Until then, peace the fuck